Oh, just back in time. Hello! How we do? Whoa, wait. Let me fix that. Isn't that like... Is it 3.75? I think? Well, 3.5. Anyway. Happy Thursday. Hopefully you're all having a good day. It's nice to get a little bit of R&R time. Well, I say R&R time. I didn't really get much R&R time yesterday because I was sorting a bunch of other stuff. My jobs never really stop, to be honest. Hopefully it'll eventually pay off. Yes, hopefully you've been having a good week. We are going to be rocking it, hopefully for a while today. I'm going to weigh up how we feel, maybe aim for like 6-7 hour stream, possibly longer. We'll see how it goes. Remember, we have got the charity stream on Saturday, which should be, I'd say, 5 or 6 hours long, I reckon it'll end up being. So hopefully we can raise a good amount of money for Alex's Lemonade Stand, which is a charity focused around providing support and research funding towards curing cancer for children. So pretty cool endeavor. I was listening to one of their stories just the other day of how, you know, a perfect example was they had this family that their son had, what's the term I'm looking for? Not remissed. They had basically come back into cancer for I think like the 5th time, and they wouldn't have been able to actually fund getting him across the country, and that's where Alex Lemonade Stand stepped in to actually assist that type of thing. So pretty cool cause. We'll be talking more about them on the weekend. But today we've just focused on the AoE 4 grind, baby. Keep an eye on the best games that are happening around the internet. We're going to be opening up with, I think we're going to go with a beastie game or two here. In fact, let me just update it, because I literally had Recon messaging me about this particular game, so I figured I'd actually check it out, and we'll see how it goes. Hold on a sec. I almost clicked on Fallout New Vegas because I've been playing a little bit of that off stream. So my most recently opened game was not AoE 4. Anyone else actually been hopping back on the Fallout bandwagon, by the way? I can't just be alone in that, right? It's fun to revisit. There's a lot of things that feel dated. Like actually playing it now after I've not played it in years, one thing I'll note is the combat is kind of terrible. So you have to use the VATS. If you don't use VATS all the time, your combat's going to feel really weird because it's not exactly an FPS, full FPS friendly game. And you know, you can tell it was kind of made for console first in that regard. Still a good game though, but what I've been doing to keep it fresh is, if anyone has already played Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, one way to spice it up is there's a mod called Tales of Two Wastelands. And Tales of Two Wastelands basically allows you to hop seamlessly between New Vegas and Fallout 3. So you can go back and forth between New Vegas and DC. So I've just started that. I'm not at the point where I'm going to hop through yet, but that'll eventually happen. And there's cool little mods that can kind of make it a bit funner. In that, for example, if you go from Fallout 3 to New Vegas, you're going to be broken at the start with all the gear you've got. But there's cool things you can do to fix that, where, for example, there's one that's called Benny shoots you in the head and steals your stuff. Where the guy that started New Vegas will basically pop you, and all your stuff will end up in a locker in New Vegas towards the end of the story when you kind of like catch up, and it resets you to 0. I am being a noob and doing the stupid thing, by the way. There's a perk at the start of I forgot what they're called. They're not perks, right? They're the two traits. There's 2 traits, right? One of them locks your level to level 30. You'd think that's a bad thing because it means you're getting 20 less levels, but actually locking yourself to level 30 is considered to be a good thing because most of the things in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, in terms of guns, equipment, abilities, whatever, really start to peak at 30. And if you go past 30, what ends up happening is you just get your cheeks clapped by all the AI, because remember, in those games, the enemy scales with your level. Back in my days, that ain't how it worked. And back in my days, you walked into the wrong area, you got your ass clapped by a level 100 dragon. Stop being a noob and learn where you gotta go. God. Let's get on the chat. Fallout TV shows actual respect to the source material, therefore it's a good show. I mean, yeah, dude. And did you guys ever consider that Ella Purnell, I think her name was, maybe kind of like a pivotal part of that? That's now Arcane and Fallout, and she nailed it in both of them. Dude, that girl has got a prominent future ahead of her as a game-focused TV/film actor. Because she does a fantastic job. Like, she absolutely nailed what you'd want out of a naive kind of like Vault Dweller. And there's no doubt that her role as Jinx was incredible. Go watch BC be prepared for 90% biz pick rate. Actually, we've got the Delhi Mongol game that we're going to check out. And then I think we also had was it a French Shuji game between him and Anatan that we'll have a look at. Only thing I know of Fallout is from watching a video about that Fallout 76 launch. Oh god, no, yeah, Baltoon, we don't talk about that, dude. So I actually did, like, you know, I'm just gonna bluntly say it. You know, I'm a bit more of a Fallout nerd. I may have started my journey a lot earlier than all these modern little plebs that are like, oh, Fallout 3 is great. Nah, dude, I come from Fallout 2. Never really got around to Fallout 1, but absolutely love Fallout 2. If you aren't a fan of the kind of more Elder Scrolls-y type approach, but you like elements like the VAT system where you basically can freeze things down and take shots, check out Fallout 2. Fallout 2 is a turn-based, isometric view, hexagonal type ARPG, or RPG rather, and I still love it to this day. Dude, that some of the dialogue in that old game is insane, and some of the like little kind of Easter eggs. I still remember this great thing where you just randomly encounter a place on the world map, and it'll bring you in, and you'll just find a crashed shuttle and a bunch of people scattered around it wearing red shirts. Right? They're just very boldly making Star Trek references and praying they don't get sued. Why no Spotify song request? Because, Legion, I like not losing out on the little bit of money that I make on my YouTube videos by getting demonetized. So I'd either get demonetized there or I get DMC blocked here, and then I'd have issues with my VODs. So it's a problem that isn't easily solved. But yeah, it's I wish I could just have any music playing. Sadly, not. Blimey, it's been a while since we've had one of those. Make that 2. Let's see. Ban and ban. You'd think. Oh no, I didn't want to click that. I accidentally clicked it. Oh, they got creative as well. Basically, when you hover on the links, it gives you a description of the place. That's intriguing. Wait, I clicked on the link by accident. Should I be concerned now? Let me check. I mean, it's usually hard to sneak someone in your system just by, like, that element on its own. Can't you just remove the music player from the YouTube stream? Not as far as I'm aware. Extracting that music is difficult because, well, if you're talking about, like, when it lets you say, oh, replace this music, no. The problem with that, the reason that doesn't work, is on YouTube's side, there are limitations. If your stream was too long, then you won't be able to take part out and put it in. I've already had this on a few streams for previous days. Like, to Zanakin got me DMCA straight away. Or copyright, what was copyright struck, but, you know, basically they siphoned the money from it. Right? So for playing 10 minutes maximum of Zanakin across a 10-hour stream, I basically lost out on 10 hours of ad revenue. Right? Only having the music play on Twitch while using a multi-stream device. So you can set it up so that Twitch, right now, Twitch, if you go back and watch my VODs, you will not hear any music on Twitch. That is set up correctly. The problem is outside that, YouTube, because I'm streaming to multiple locations. That's where it doesn't work. Because the built-in thing that OBS has for VOD stream muting is Twitch specific. It doesn't work on other platforms. So yeah, a little bit of an awkward predicament there. But hey-ho. Sometimes you hate copyright. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, it's weird because this industry isn't big enough in the eyes of music producers yet to sue people for what they're doing. But eventually they will. They will. Right? Like, the thing that's happening right now is you're seeing a lot of situations where there's a strike. Well, not strike, but there's not a strike, but there's a revenue yoink or whatever on YouTube after a video finishes, after a stream finishes. Same on Twitch, where afterwards Twitch will review and go, oh, this stuff is not safe, DMCA, blah, blah, blah. We're going to automatically disable your VODs until you fix this, just so you know, right? That's the friendly version. What a lot of people aren't aware of is that the music companies already have the technology, and they've actually had it for years, by the way, to detect their license, their protected property playing live in real time. They've had these bots set up. They tested them years ago, right? I know some industry folks that have like seen these. They've experienced these. They've talked to the people who've made them. They work. They have worked for years. Don't think ChatGPT just brought this in They already had these things in place, ready to pull the trigger on years ago. And I'm talking like 4 or 5 years ago. They just don't bother because right now, the whole idea of going through that arduous process of suing these people, of taking their money, to them, they're not seeing the numbers big enough yet that it's waking them up to say, yeah, we need to slap these people right now. So like that will happen in the future. You'll have to, the big streamers will be fine in a certain way because they'll just go and get permission from X or Y people. Like I think Nick Merckx has permission from Drake to play all of his soundtracks whenever he's in the gym or whatever, right? In other words, I find a new use of Roost Pro Scouts for fast castles against Biz, and it kind of works well. Yeah, but if you want to like fast castle me, if you're going to Pro Scouts me, why wouldn't I not Pro Scouts you as Byzantines and build Hippodrome so I get 5 times the damage you get? The IP laws are changing with LLMs and AI models using IP to train their models, so stay tuned. Yes, well, so interesting point around that, Hermes, but what I'd say is anything revolving around the whole idea of AIs and legislation, expect that to take a century to get ironed out. We live in an age still where we've had the internet for how long? It's evolved how often? It's had content creation for 20 plus years, but all of the traditional kind of legal systems don't understand it. They don't attribute it correctly, right? And it's difficult too because you're not just talking about one country, you're talking about all these countries, right? And that's where it muddies the water. So I would say do not expect the AI issue to get resolved anytime soon. It's going to remain a gray area for probably the next like 30, 40 years at least. For the same, but there are current cases going forward again amongst some of the bigger companies trying to sort it out amongst themselves before it gets legislated.
Now you're my...
Yo, what's up, Eisman? Thank you very much for the raid, my friend. Hopefully you had a good stream. So here's the problem there, Hermes. When a small group of companies get together and decide what is right and what is wrong, the problem is if it doesn't include the other big companies around the world, it doesn't work, right? This is the issue I'm talking about. Globalization caused this entire issue of legislation and how you authorize it and enforce it, right? You see this all across the board. Now, that can then cause issues operating in the countries, sure, but the problem is the legal systems in those situations move so absurdly slow, it's still going to take you tens and tens of years to see any budge. That's my anticipation still. I think, you're seeing this around the crypto systems. You're seeing this around AI right now. Like, just think about that as well, for example. Like, the whole, what they called, I've forgotten the name now. They sponsored TSM, the giant crypto scam with Sam something. My brain has forgotten their name. It's probably a good thing I've forgotten their name, because I think we should all purge that from our brain. Just remember that those things are a scam at the same time. OneCoin? No, it was... FTX. Yeah, FTX. Like, FTX, think about how big FTX had to get and how big that had to be for anything to be done, for any involvement on a financial, like, on a federal level, right? And the funny part is, even after that's happened, a lot of things just still aren't going to be, shall we say, assessed or dived into, right? Like, this is the world we live in. Because the problem is, you're talking about the fact that most countries, yes, most countries, because you've got things like EU, right? Most countries allow their legislations to be decided on a country-to-country basis. Now you live in an ecosystem that is globalized, right? Globalization has been a very big boon, a very big benefit for many reasons, but it's also been an absolute quagmire because you just can't get crap done. It doesn't. It's not as simple as just convincing your local electorates in your one country to say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. Now you have to do that across all these different countries with a bunch of dinosaurs who probably don't even know how to install Windows, let alone talk on the intricacies of Web3 and crypto, NFTs, and then also, AI, and they're taking their jobs, right? It's the equivalent of a farmer of 40 years that worked in the farms, tilling with his hands, being introduced to the combine harvester, and then him being expected to do legislation on the combine harvester. You know what I mean? Like, old versus new. And this is the problem in, like, political systems. Because you've got this old guard, these absolute boomers who just don't know what they're talking about. And the problem is, usually these boomers, they're meant to go and, like, smart boomers in that situation will go and hire people who do know what they're talking about. But even then, a lot of the time, they just don't actually understand what they're being told in return, right? Which you can definitely dissect as being a specialist issue, like who the specialists you're hiring. But even then, you've got to consider those specialists you're hiring usually have ulterior motives, right? If you talk to Elon Musk or you talk to Mark Zuckerberg on like what you've got to do, the answers they're going to give you are definitely going to be skewed in a way that benefits their private companies, right? So like you have to wait for this generation of people that understand the tech, that are committed to that career to come through. This is always we're getting in a weird political debate. Like we're not even a NAV4 stream anymore. We're going full just chatting and politics. But then when you dive into it, you've got that huge discussion. That's always an interesting one around career politicians versus businessmen politicians, right? And both have the upside downsides. Congressmen don't understand their own questions, let alone the answers. Exactly. And they are also terrible at pressing on the right subjects, because what ends up happening is like they realize after they've had one of those talks that they didn't, like they get the criticism that they didn't push on the matter. They're like, oh no. And then next time they push on something, they push on the completely wrong thing, right? Like, what is an IP? Tell us what an IP is like. And what kind of address is, and all of a sudden you're like, no, that's not what, like, people know what an IP address is, Congressman. We want to know where that data is being sent, to who, that blah, 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 right? A few politicians in different countries got better asking these questions, but the majority still just don't know ask from elbow. It's a classic example of why hiring the person who has years and years of experience in a political like system isn't always the best answer. You know, it's a safe option. That's actually the reason why democracies operate in that way. They say, like, you guys know that democracies are the most inefficient form of government, right? By far. Dictatorships get things done. Autocracies get things done. But the problem, like, the reason why democracies are chosen for that logic is their inefficiency is their safeguard against contradictions and dangers. Because if they are inefficient and they take a very long time to get anything done, it means it has to go through due process again and again and again. The logic being, as that happens, anything that is moronic shouldn't make it through, right? Any Trump-type decisions shouldn't really make it through if the next president's like, don't really think I should be following the political ideologies of a giant Satsuma. You know, like, these are the type of things that make democracy seen as the best solution in most countries. But like I said, it comes with its flaws as well. Right. So I'm going to get us ready to get in game, because we've given people a few minutes to hop, skip, and jump in. I think we are getting most people in now. So let me go ahead and pull up the games we were going to have a look at. I do like having these conversations, though. USA is so funny at the moment. I mean, dude, like, there's no perfect political system, but some of the things that USA does with their political system confuses me. The electorate, like, as a country that has its own flaws, it's baffling that I can look around the world and see, like, bigger flaws. Like, the electorate college, I facepalm every time. I think any American, like, will agree with me. The electorate college system just makes no sense. And it's just so hard and convoluted to explain, even to other Americans, right? Older democracies were less democratic, ironically, but more efficient. Yeah, but that's because they had the aristocracy issue as well, right? Where it was locked doors logic. So the reason why those seemed more efficient isn't because they weren't necessarily, like, better. It's just that the people that existed in those older democratic systems, the majority came from the same circle, the same clique. So you had things pass quicker because they were all aligned, right? Because most of the politicians in older systems were rich people. Right? So the idea of, like, let's not tax the rich people would get through a lot quicker in those days than it would now. Right? Like, it's old democracy was legitimately just, like, a different form of monarchy. Right? Instead of having one monarchist role and one absolute monarchist. Like, what you just kind of have to think about is, like, what you have with the idea of dictatorships is like a mid-ground between monarchies and old-school democracies, if that makes sense. Because you hire a bunch of yes men around you that you know will agree with your one ideology. Everyone's stolen a license to vote, you license to drive, and you prove you know the rules. So, like, this is something I've interestingly said before, is, like, I do think that when it comes to the political systems and, like, when you go to vote, and, like, this will never get enforced because, like, people will say that you're trying to gatekeep the vote, but people should actually be required to, answer a few basic questions to make sure that they are legally competent to vote. Like, one thing that's kind of baffling to me is in this country, I remember years ago, it was around Brexit, I think. I had an argument with my partner's grandmother about the policies of the Conservatives and how she was backing the Conservatives because she backed the Labour for years and they just let them down and blah, blah, blah. And then she started talking, she started listening, like, after we had the big blown out argument, she calmed the hell down. And she started to explain to me why she was voting Conservative. So she listed off a bunch of things, right? I can't remember the exact list at the time, it's years ago now. But this stuck with me. I nodded my head, we left, and I looked at my partner, and I went, your grandmother's an idiot. She went, what? I went, she just listed off all of Labour's, like, you know, Labour's ideologies and what they're going to do if they get in government. But she's voting Conservative. That's when I was like, people, dude. Like, the same, like, this is also why I hate two-party systems, by the way, because, like, another issue with two-party systems is people don't vote for who they want to win. They vote to spite the person they don't, like, otherwise, right? So it's like, for example, to use UK party terms, if you've got Conservative, you've got Labour, and then you've got Green Party. You might believe in the Green Party, but like, people will say, oh, the Green Party's not going to win. So, like, I hate Labour less, so I'll vote Labour. That's what people do. I'm kind of envious in some ways of the systems that, like, Denmark have. I know they're not without their flaws, but, you know, like, first past the line two-party systems are cringe, and they're really, really bad for change. All right, let's catch up on this and hop in, though. I think a lot of people probably came for the games and not for my my why I'm running for president blurb. I refuse to vote when my vote has equal value to an 80 IQ clueless person. I get where you're coming from, Ross, but what I will say is if you refuse to vote for that reason, it makes you seem like you've got a lower IQ than that person. See what I mean? Because by that, like, so if that's the way you think, if that's the way you feel, what you're essentially saying is, I don't like sharing my votes with monkeys. Therefore, I object from the vote, and the monkeys can decide what happens with the country. 5 years from now. Okay, Congressman Ubu, what do you think? Very good take, right? So it's like, you know, this moral objection isn't going to help you there. If you want me to put a small paragraph, I can actually explain the purpose. I think I've read on it before. I'll need to refresh my brain. I do every time. It's kind of a mess. It's such a mess. The way that they allocate points is so dumb. The Nordic, there is many small parties that you need to discuss with for forming a government. Yeah, but, like, is that necessarily a bad thing? I mean, it can be a little bit messy if like, they can't come to an agreement, sure. But in most cases, you do get an eventual agreement. And the reason, like, that's a better system is that you get people coming together to agree on different perspectives. Because when you get a two-party system, you get Brexit. And then you get dumb follow-ups to Brexit. Right? When you get a two-party system, you get Make America Great Again. Right? I'll just pluck it out a few of recent years. They ain't great. Also, when you get two-party systems, you are more likely to get these loyalist, long-term, almost like dictatorship levels of systems, right? Like, I think Angela Merkel's stepping down soon in Germany, but she's had like a very long run, and she just kind of became a default vote, right? So, like, something that Americans don't understand is in European countries, the same government can keep getting in again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And our presidents aren't really elected in most cases. So, like, in the UK, although we pitch our campaigns a little bit like a presidential campaign, where it's like, vote for David Cameron, you could vote for David Cameron, aka you're voting for the Conservatives, and the first day they get in office, they could vote no confidence and boot him out and replace him with, you know, Mad Tommy, who, for some reason, every single debate starts off by snorting 2 lines of cocaine and then sniffing a kitten, right? Like, This is another thing about that comes back to that globalization thing of how it's like warped the way that we have perceived our own political systems. Brexit has been wondrous. Your name is Farman. Of course, you think Brexit has been wondrous. Yeah, like coalition governments essentially are just proving the optimization, the whole idea of democracies being the most inefficient form of government, thus making the least mistakes. What they do is it gets internally policed to the point where it's like any stupid ideas can't be started on a path of destruction, such as Brexit. Okay, so all I'll say on that, Ross, the whole idea of propaganda, by the way, it's funny you bring that up. I will point this out as an interesting thought for people. It's something I kind of realized when I went to certain countries around the world that are propaganded to us to be shady places for different reasons. What you realize when you actually go to different countries, a lot of very different countries, is that propaganda exists everywhere, including in the UK and America. And we just don't realize it. Like, we always think of this brainwashy idea of, like, Russia, for example, propaganding their people, and, like, you know, China or, like, Korea, wherever you're thinking of, dropping leaflets from the sky that convince people of things, right? But the funny thing is, like, propaganda as an idea exists everywhere. Like, I said this, I said this a few months ago to someone. It's kind of interesting to think about. And it's not that it's the wrong thing, because I agree with the idea of freedom. But, like, the idea of freedom and the way we perceive it in the West is propaganda. Like I said, I'm not saying I disagree with the idea of freedom. I very much like freedom, thank you very much, and I'm on board with it. But what I will say is what propaganda is. Whenever someone uses the word propaganda, it has a negative quotation attached to it straight away, until you start realizing you're propagandized against all kinds of things. Propaganda fueled with lies and empty promises? Yes, because we exist in a political environment, globally actually, where legally no one is held accountable for the things they say. Which is kind of dumb, because if I, for example, held up these Gunnar glasses right now, and I said, if you wear these, you will automatically... No, sorry, let's do this correct. Let's do this more on theme. Guys, if you buy the new Fallout Gunnar frames, and I really, in the middle of this, need to say that this is sarcasm to prove a point. This won't really happen. What will happen, actually, is that you will look very stylish with these on. But you'll also get X-ray vision because of all the mutagens that exist in the lenses because we're in Fallout universe, and then you'll be able to see nude boobies all the time, right? If I said that second part is not true. But if I said that in a sales environment, and people went and bought, and they went, KP, I don't see nude boobies. And I was like, but the reason you don't see nude boobies is because you're not looking at the porn mags. If you look at the porn mags, you'd be able to see them, right? You'd be like, no, that's unacceptable. That's false advertising. I'm suing your ass, right? But when a politician does this crap, and they lie, and they backpedal, you can't sue them. In fact, here's an interesting one for you guys. Brexit, when Brexit was coming in, one of the big things that got pushed was the whole idea of, what was it? It was basically to stop businesses suing the government for losing out on money because of the choice. There was a bill passed that we had no say in. It was just a closed door thing between the politicians to say no one can sue us for Brexit losing them business. This is getting off the rails quickly. I mean, it's kind of proving the point. We should probably get ready to go, though. like I said, I like having these discussions. I think there's interesting, deep thought discussions to have. I really need to get an editor that would just clip these all down and upload them, though. Wait, who was it? Yeah, who was the other day who said that we're going to do that with my other thing? Was it Fap? Someone said, but I haven't seen it yet, so I wonder if they're doing it. Love the team where you get those. I've been looking for a place to coat mine. You can get them from Gunnar. !Gunnar. Use my link down below, and you'll get your hands on nice little themed one as well. They do a bunch of different frames. So I've got the World of Warcraft frames. I've got these ones. These ones are only 30% tint. These ones are a 65% tint for blue light filtering. And the cool thing is they are curved. So don't worry when you read the lengths, you're like, whoa, those sound really big. I thought that too. They're actually not too big. But they're also curved because it helps keep your eyes drier in longer sessions. So check them out. !Gunnar, Gunnar. And be sure to use code Pigeon at checkout to make sure you get 15% off frames that are, I believe it's at least 45 days old. So you won't be able to get 15% off these, but it will let them know that I sent you. They accept custom frames and just coat the lenses? No. Not to my knowledge, no. But you can buy their frames, and then they use their own patented lenses. You can even order prescription ones on there. So you can get prescription, or you can just get ones that are simply fashionable and have the blue light filtering. John Carpenter's live shows it well. Every commercial ad is propaganda. Yeah. Dude, like, I realized this when I went to, like, the Middle East. I was like, you know, when I was getting ready to go to the Middle East, I was told, you can't go topless anywhere, right? You can't even swim in. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I got there, and they were like, do what you want. I mean, don't set fire to our cats and don't kill people, but most of your stuff you're fine. There's even a case, like, I think, for example, I think Dubai has this where you can now drink in certain locations. Whereas, like, if you were getting ready to travel to Dubai beforehand, people, no one would tell you that. You get told the opposite. Don't drink. And then, like, my friend was telling me when he was there, I was like, yeah, dude, they literally have restaurants where you can drink. You can drink in your own house. You can do all these things, right? UK-based. Actually, they are an American company. They do ship worldwide. But, yes, they are American-based, so you can get them pretty much anywhere. They did it during the Football World Cup. Oh, yeah, like, dude, there's a difference between, like, doing what you do and then just, like, kind of taking advantage of people's friendliness of new countries. I don't know. It's always interesting with Dubai, Qatar, places like that. Everyone expects everything to change in a day to be exactly how we've got. But, like, the way I always describe it is, like, there is change happening, and we should feel good about the fact that change is happening to align more with the rest of the world. The problem is, if everything changed tomorrow to be exactly how it is in, for example, the UK or America in terms of, like, freedom and what you can do and whatever, whoever made that change would get beheaded. And then you'd have a more aggressive form of government, right? Like, there is, funnily enough, there is an example in the Middle East, beginning with A, that kind of proves the point of what happens when, like, we quickly try to enforce Western standards. You just get an immediate pullback, right? Because, like, the more you pull people away from where the current social and cultural norm is right now, it's like an elastic band. You're pulling, and eventually it's going to snap and shoot back the other way, right? It's like, yeah, it's always interesting because I see this a lot where people are like, yeah, everything needs to change immediately. It's like, progress over time. It wasn't very long ago that a lot of Western countries were extremely homophobic and racist. But you can't say that because the moment you say that, it's called whataboutism. Which drives me nuts, guys. You can actually highlight the hypocrisies of something else without it just being discarded as whataboutism. Sorry, I realize this is just going to keep going. Isn't the UK still pretty racist? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's legal. In fact, correct me if I'm, like, can someone correct me on US laws? I think US laws has more allowability to, like, be racially vocal. And what I mean by that is, like, you could, you know, curse word someone per se. And I don't think you, like, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not perfect with the US laws. I just know that free speech is a more intertwined and protected element of American culture and legal than it is of UK. But, like, to say it's UK specific, you're kidding me, right? Like, most countries still have issues with race. It's just it's because of the older generations and how those operate. But it is changing over time. We have hate speech laws in the UK, but not in the US. Exactly. Like, this is a classic one where, like, I don't know if you could get arrested in the UK for, like, calling a police officer but I know that in America you can't. In America, it has to be fighting words. Like, there's a term of, like, if it's fighting words, then yes, they can arrest you, right? Because you're threatening. But if you're just, like, calling them names or whatever, they can't do anything. And I think in the US, in the UK, you might be able to get in trouble for that. Most streamers try to keep the politics out of their content. Meanwhile, KP. I mean, I don't think I've said anything polarizing. Like, I don't know. It's not like I came in here and I was like, we need to burn the babies. Wait, don't clip that. It's what I'm saying. What I'm basically doing. I think I'm giving people a bunch of logical thought experiments themselves, like philosophicals and whatnot. Like, the whole idea of what I was saying about propaganda. It's so intriguing when you think about the fact that propaganda exists in every country. We are fed propaganda every day, right? But it's kind of comical because, like, I think what's a cool, interesting thing is the idea that we're fed propaganda every day was nicely hidden behind the logic of, like, when you watch those memeful propagandas where it's like the Russian person in Soviet Union time, or like, you know, 80s China, and they fall for haha this silly thing. You're like, how could you fall for that? Or North Korea, and it's like, it's such a caricature type of propaganda when really like propaganda means something a lot simpler. Propaganda is bringing presents. Guys, do you know what propaganda is? Propaganda is me sitting here right now and telling you that you should subscribe to this channel, because by subscribing to this channel, you can be one of us. And on top of it, you don't have to worry about ads. Is that not technically a form of propaganda? I'm pushing an agenda. I like money, and you like not having ads in your face. It's a win-win. All right, let's get ready to go. See, this is what I mean. Like, anything can be propaganda. Absolutely anything can be propaganda. How about this? Beastie is the best player in the world. If I push that enough and you believe it, we've propagandized. I don't know why I've decided to start a YouTube video like this, but here we go. This is indeed Beastie over here on the Mongols, guys. Going up against my friendly neighborhood trash bander, none other than Recon, on his Rack Attack account, actually. He hadn't been using this one for quite a while. So I'm a little bit surprised that he suddenly dusted it off. Must be that he's trying to keep one high ranked and the other is going to be for practice. But we've got Delhi versus Mongols here. Now, I glanced a little bit at this game when it was happening live yesterday, and I remember Recon started messaging me afterwards because he saw that I was in the chat, trying to kind of figure out the details of the matchup. And his kind of take was, Ghazi feel pretty OP. So let's see how OP they're going to be in this one. Because Mongols versus Delhi is a matchup that I would say heavily leans towards the Delhi and has done for quite some time now. Right? Like, I actually don't feel like Mongols can do much anymore. They used to do these cheeky tower rushes, right? Where they'd easily just get a few spearmen in and they'd be laughing to the bank. But that, to me, has fallen off in success in more recent times. In general, but especially against Delhi, because Delhi players very quickly realize that in the event that you get outpost rushed, pull your villagers, pull the scholar out, heal the villagers, fight the spearmen. Healing in Dark and Feudal Age is kind of OP when you think about it. I actually feel like not enough people kind of like process that, but times are changing. I can guarantee you this much: with the arrival of the newly found Abbey of Kings builds for the English, a lot more people are going to be clocking just how imba healing in early game can be. And wait, Beastie with his favorite Civ? Hold on, I'm going to have to contest that. This guy loves HRE, okay? He loves HRE so much, I got Crackety ranting 24/7 about how OP HRE is. And then Beastie's like, I don't feel that too bad. So we have got the racks opening. Villager is already being pulled super early. He has scouted the base, though. He done this correctly. He even sent the Falcon in to get as much vision info as possible. What I find intriguing is there's still a graphic effect for the Falcon, but like he's not getting vision anymore. That's weird. I never noticed that before. I love the just in case you didn't notice the first time, you're still being scouted. So we are going to see a drop, what, on the gold and the berries, but that's incredibly ambitious, and the timing could not be worse. Recon sees it. So I'm wondering, is Beastie going to try and go greedy here, or is he going to play it safe and just outpost the second berry? I really like the idea of outposting the second berry and then kind of using Keshix with Yamora. I don't like this idea. Like, realistically, Recon should not allow this to happen. His mum would have had to have shouted up to him, and he would have had to have looked away from the screen for a good 10 seconds to not know this is coming. In fact, Beastie literally just walked by the gold vein to go for the drop. Wait, is he going for the deer? No. Against Delhi? It's going to be the wood line, right? How are we looking on the scout hall as well? 10 sheep, not too bad. 9 on the other side, yeah. I don't know what happened there with Recon. I mean, it's a little bit tricky against the Mongols because they do have a better scouting rotation due to the movement speed and the Falcon allowing them to see. But it is a little bit surprising to me that he got so little out of this. And I can't believe Beastie legit just done an entire lap of the base to come back and drop on the woodline anyway. So Outpost coming up. Recon should know there's something happening back here, though. Like, I'm a little bit surprised he's so chill about this. This is quite awkward because a very valuable element of Delhi comps is archers, and you're going to potentially be blocked out of scaling that quickly. Just because this outpost on the tree line succeeds in that element, right? I've been playing too much Fallout recently because when I look on the map and see the craters, all I can think of is Megaton. Is it Megaton or Megatown? It's Megaton, right? Megaton City? Wait, what? Okay, this is depressing to watch. I love this idea that Beastie could have actually pulled the sheep towards the TC, and it probably would have got to safety before the scout could do anything. Because he was close enough to buildings, right? So it's going to be a little bit annoying, because that's going to be some food lost, but it's also going to be like a blocker against dropping buildings straight on top of this. Then again, the range of influence means you can just drop one tile out. So no biggie there. Tower Victory has come out, though. Deerstone being built up on quite the delay. If you're wondering, why the hell would Beastie do Deerstone here? It's because you're on a map that, A, doesn't have the best trade, right? It's forward, and it's even though it's kind of cornerish in that it's against the edge of the map, it's not at the back. The other bigger issue here is on top of that, you're against the Delhi, who always open Ghazi. Ghazi raid is a phenomenal at shutting down trade. You just get no value. I'm actually a really big fan of what BC's done here, because now, in the event that he's up against Ghazi, it makes it much easier to move around spears and defend with that. And also, it gives more justification to this outpost rush play. Like, my feelings on outpost rush plays is they only really make sense when you're using Deerstone. Very rarely will it make sense when you're going trade. Because you're just investing so much and then not getting a double value point out of it, right? Instead, you can see Beastie now on the walk back, invest in a second outpost. It means spears, archers, or Keshiks are now all going to have that aura, buffing them up to rotate around the enemy base. I like how I mentioned someone about HRE being OP and then Crackety just turns up. Crackety. So tech up complete. I think it makes a lot of sense to play Keshiks here. If you can scale a similar number of Keshiks to Ghazi, the ratio is not too bad. You're going to want to open Spearman just to make sure the Ghazi numbers don't get out of hand. But Keshiks can make a lot of sense, and even more when you scout this out. Recon has indeed gone for the expected, the archery range. It makes sense, right? He already saw the Spearman come in. So he's a little bit paranoid that more of those might come out. If Recon doesn't drop an archery range to contest this, he's in trouble. Now, long term, the value point for Recon is to get 1-1-1, or more like a 2-2-2 because of military efficiency, right? So he needs to make sure he gets all his infantry types. Not just Ghazi, not just archers, but his pokey sticks as well. Well, looks like it's going to be the stables. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's your premium unit, right? It's like when you play English and you play long feudal and don't build longbows. What are you doing with your life? It doesn't make sense, right? Like when you're playing Malians, you play long feudal and you don't build javelins. What is wrong with you? Similar with Mongols, anytime they can't get into Keshiks, something feels like it's gone wrong. And yes, I do agree that the 40% bonus eco, I feel like you just can't take that away from HRE. I do agree on the discount Imperial though. I do not to this day understand why Palace of Swabia, aka Love Hotel, aka Village Printer, is by far the most built of the landmark choices there, and it still, for some reason, hasn't had its discount removed. It's baffling to me. Anyway, it looks like the outpost has been discovered. Sticks are going to get out to defend, and the Ghazi, bad micro here by Recon. Wow, okay, and at the tail end of that, it looks like it's going to be 4 of these lads left alive. I can't believe that. That was... I'm just going to be blunt about it. Abhorrent micro. Recon, I think, did he click on the wrong unit or just try to run past? It looked like the pathing just went absolutely wrong there. Losing Ghazi like that is expensive. Scaling this is critical, especially now that your opponent's going Keshiks, because if you don't have the raw quantity advantage, you're just going to lose the fights. Because what you have to realize is if it's one Keshik versus one Ghazi, if Ghazi have okay damage, okay health, but it's kind of irrelevant compared to the Keshik stats. And on top of that, remember, Keshiks will heal as they attack in return. So you just get brutally wiped in those type of fights. Recon, where is the blacksmiths as well? I'm a little bit shocked by this. Typically, you're going to see a blacksmith before 8 minutes with the Delhi. In fact, most Delhi players will open with Ghazi and then immediately go go blacksmiths afterwards. The logic being is you know you're going to go for archery range, you know you're going to need steeled arrow, so that should be a high priority considering with the Tower Victory build, you can't rush the tech unlock because you don't have as many scholars. So far, we're not seeing that. The Kekiks are looking pretty good on the numbers, guys. Undermesh is already in the... Oh, man, this is going to be hard. This is exactly why when you're playing Delhi and you tend to go archers, you should have a blacksmith down super early. He's going to be completely mismatched now because if he drops the smiths on a delay, he's not going to be able to have the offset for Undermesh for a good 3 minutes. Initial clash. A little bit ambitious coming out from Beastie here. I think he maybe jumped the gun. Undermesh could have been waited for. The Ghazi instead are going to be stripped down in numbers. It feels like he actually does have enough Keshiks to keep plowing through here. Undermesh has now completed, so all of a sudden these archers tickle. The Ghazi are still going to be annoying. It's kind of interesting that he's targeting down the archers as a priority now. So it looks like the Ghazi will be able to hold on for the time being. Good plays there by Recon. The double heal from the Scholars was the difference maker there. If it wasn't for that, he would have lost an additional 3 Ghazi, at which point the Keshiks are one-on-oneing Ghazi Raiders. And that's the fight they'll win every day of the week. So good read there to pull the Scholar so early. Most players are reluctant to do this. They want to keep one Scholar at home for teching. The problem here is he hasn't got a reason to. Because he didn't go for the Blacksmiths, he doesn't want to keep them at home at all. I understand the thought process here of Recon, which is by actually not needing Blacksmith upgrades, I can go for double Sacred Sight. My counter-argument is you can still do that even if you have a Blacksmiths. You at least have that tech timing coming in gradually. Now it's missing. I mean, we're 10 minutes into the game, and there's no Blacksmiths coming still for Recon. In fact, with the wood gathering he's got here, we're still going to be, what, half a minute away from him starting the building? So by 12 minutes in this game, he's not going to have any Blacksmith techs. That's a death sentence, man. That's crazy. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a Delhi player do this in, like, the last year. Not that I can recall. Most of the time, you're dropping 1 Smiths at, like, 6.5 minutes, if not 2. No, someone mentioning Vortex. Like, Vortex was a perfect example of someone who would do the double Smiths. And it's very, very powerful. The reason it's so powerful is it forces your opponent to keep reacting to you. Right? You're not paying for this. You pay for the cost of the building, then you get the rest for free, while they're having to actively pay, while also still having to pay for the building. So it really kind of kicks them in the nuts on the eco side. Instead, you've got a situation where Beastie got to set his own pace here, get his tech when he wanted it, and now he's all that much more powerful for it due to the weird build out of the Delhi. I'm not liking the look of this. Recon, it's finally coming in. He only has 1 Scholar at home, though. 2 are out capturing right now. And some interesting walls going up. Wait, is he planning to wall across here? He might want to be quicker because these Keshiks are riding in fast. And oh my goodness, Recon. He never took the outpost out. Oh my god! There's nowhere to run here. Textiles is at least in, but it doesn't matter. This many Keshiks can do serious damage. Ghazi have to stand their ground. Outpost is at least going to assist. It looks like more Ghazi are going to arrive, so Beastie will have to walk away, but finds a few villager kills. And still finding more. Oh my god. The berries getting idled out now, so 3 villager kills in a game where there's no counter-aggression coming in. And the Keshik versus Ghazi count are almost mirrored in quantity. Oh, this is insane. I can't believe this. And he's just peeling the mass Ghazi with just a few Keshiks while the others continue to raid. I think Recon misread this fight. He sent way too many Ghazi to the left side. This still hasn't been addressed. And it's not going to be addressed anytime soon because there's no Steeled Arrow. There's no arrow slits. These guys have Undermesh and also heal when they attack. That is wild. I can't believe that. 5 eco kills so far. By the end of it, probably going to be 7. Meanwhile, just enough Keshiks left over to defend against the main push. Recon, I'm perplexed, man. I mean, I cannot believe this. It's not often you see a game this blunt and clear where Blacksmiths would have made the difference, but this is it. This is that game. No Steeled Arrow means no value out of these archers for 13 minutes. Now, no melee defense, no melee attack means you're losing even harder against the Keshiks. And all of a sudden, this game looks non-winnable. Recon, he has no choice but to stand his ground here. His archers came way too far out. And even if he runs home, right, that outpost network, the maneuver speed arrow is going to hunt him down further. This looks like a GG to me. It's 6 villager kills to 1. And you still don't have the walls up. You still are getting killed as well. I mean, look at these health bars, guys. These are tech-style villages. And this is textbook Mongols. You let them raid, and they will take it every day of the week. Army getting mopped up, and I think Recon just doesn't know what to do. I can tell you what you need to do, though. You need your Blacksmith techs, guys. Delhi Blacksmith timings dictates flow. Delis that dictate flow win games. Yeah, that was a weird build. I wonder if I actually upload that one. It's kind of an interesting lesson in the importance of blacksmiths, right? Vortex would have killed Crackety in that game. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, there's no games they had. We're going to stream some Crackety games later to find out how Itchery is going for him. Because they're broken, remember? So, let me see. Maybe we call that one... A little bit of a funky build. The problem is, so I think Recon was saying to me that he liked this idea of like no blacksmiths, and he thought there was some value in it. But the problem is, when you're playing Delhi, you don't have any pivot point. Like other civs can make that statement and say, I'm going to now switch in and get my tech quickly in a reaction to the fact that he now has blacksmith techs. The problem with the Delhi is they can't do that. They have no way of making that same statement, right? They're locked. So yeah, I don't agree with that build for that civ. Maybe Recon's going to be able to prove me wrong, but my eyes on it, I think if there's any civ in the game that I can think of that can't afford to be suboptimal with their blacksmiths, especially if they're playing on feudal, it's Delhi. Delhi is number one for that. It's so important for that civ. In fact, what was I going to call? I'm trying to think what I'm going to call this one. One of the weirdest Delhi openers, or Delhi have no blacksmith flexibility? What do you guys think? It was a weird Delhi opener, so maybe we stick with that. Actually, I'm going to call it Delhi must get their blacksmiths early. Yeah, I think that works. We had that discussion about propaganda, and I just checked the YouTube side, and Aaron rather is in there. Amar is in there saying propaganda is real, very significant in today's world. Support the stream, guys. Yeah, guys, come on, like drop those Prime subs. I know you got them. Want to see some Order of the Dragon and Landsknechts? We've been seeing so many of them at the moment. Why do you need more? I think we're going to do one more Beastie game for the moment, and that's going to be Beastie versus Anachad. So let me get that game up. You can never get enough. Careful. I mean, if we watch the Myriad replays. Oh, I shouldn't do that to him. He's gonna find it. I genuinely think that game we cast the Myriad the other day, if he had Arkan up against the Delhi, he would have done a lot better. Right, why can't I not open Beastie's data? That's been a bit weird. Okay, there we go. So, oh, sorry, no, it's not Beastie versus Anatan. It's Beastie versus Puppy Paw. That was right. Juji versus French. Well, actually, which one do you guys want? Juji versus French or Abbasid versus Japanese? I'll let you choose. When they kill villagers, it's just so satisfying. That's true. Oh. It's like a hot knife through butter. Actually, what was that? I can't remember. Like, it was ages ago when I was casting Lidicor. He meant to say, like, a hot knife through butter. And I think he said, like, a hot butter through knife or something like that. He completely butchered the metaphor. AoE4 needs a gore mod. You know there's a mod that, like, doesn't remove corpses. I wouldn't recommend it, though. I mean, think about what this game does with too many trees. Speaking of too many trees, oh my dear God, they are everywhere. That's right, we are in high view. Puppy Paw going up against Beastie Cutie. That's right, this guy here, Anatan Fan, is indeed Puppy Paw. In fact, it's not just Puppy Paw, it's Puppy Paw on top. Would you guys like to guess what rank Anatan Fan is right now? They are out of control. This guy is a beast. Puppy Paw is sitting first on the leaderboard with 2,340 elo. That is, I think, 100 elo advantage, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, just double checked. Just under 100 elo advantage over Vortex that is in second place. Boy's on fire right now. It's kind of interesting, right? Poppy Pool is taking the leaderboards. Wham just took the most recent big tournament. Then before it was, of course, Miriam Lillard. You know, it's cool to see NA just rising up alongside all this talk. I've been hyping the fact that, you know, China's on the rise. Obviously, we're going to have to find out if China's on the rise in this game in a different form, though. Because it is a battle between Europe and NA. But Zhuji is a Civ that not really many people pick right now. So I'm curious to see what he's got in mind, especially against a Civ like the French. I'm wondering if you can just do Chigenu all in. Can you do like Chigenu Spim and all in here? Because we haven't seen French versus anything recently. In fact, I'd say these two Civs are probably the two Civs we get to cast the least of in the game right now. Now that I think about it. Like, is there anyone we don't cast? No, we see a good amount of Masses. Delhi gets seen all the time. Yeah, these are the two that people ignore. We've at least got a few players trying to experiment with Order of the Dragon, but it feels like French has just fallen off the side of a cliff. But I gotta say, in the most recent weeks, I've been seeing a lot of players shifting back towards it to figure out some builds around it. I think it does have some merit points compared to Zhone. In fact, we've already proven in multiple games that this Civ is actually a perfect counterpick to Zhone. There's probably stronger ones in there, don't get me wrong. I think Japan can work better against Zhone. I think there's a few other Civs that can easily dominate her, HRE. But definitely French is one of those Civs that's favored in those matchups. The Zhuji one's a little bit more complicated. I'd say French versus China, French have a good opportunity to pressure the Chinese player. The difference here with the Zhuji is more about timings. In fact, if you think about it, a lot of the variant Civs are more about timings. The Order of the Dragon are about providing aggression, and what a time to see that. Regardless of what I was going to say, I was going to point out that Zhuji play aggro more than they play turtle compared to China. The Order of the Dragon play aggro more than they play turtle compared to HRE. But it all doesn't matter when this happens. Why? This landmark is so bad. Why would Beastie do this? So here's the thought process that I think Beastie has decided to dance his brain into. I'm doing Chamber of Commerce because my opponent is probably going to be greedy. He's not going to try to all-in me when he's playing Chuganu Mass against Knights. That feels like suicide. So this is Beastie trying to get some eco benefit instead. The problem I have with this is, A, I still think Chamber of Commerce is absolutely trash. And B, Zhuji are more capable of Chuganu spamming than your typical Chinese. I've got a feeling this could either be Fast Castle or just Chuganu all in. In fact, I really like the idea of Fast Castle here to try and yoink the relics. It is a bit dangerous against French Knights though, so I really wouldn't be surprised if Poppy Ball just chooses an all-in approach. That being said, when you see 4 people on gold like this, 6 on food, it seems like a dead giveaway that we're either heading into Song for multi-TC or Fast Castle. Good Meditation Garden, by the way. He's got the stone, he's got the wood, he's got the berries. Stone's going to be nice at least to generate hand cannon slits over time. Don't think the stone matters when you're going for a TC rush. Like, this Meditation Garden being here does not tell us that this is going to be a TC at all. Attack up complete. Why do I hate Chamber Commerce so much? Wait, sorry, I'm really seeing this. Cock is amazing for FFA games where everyone just turtles. Brit boy, I know you play French a lot, so I don't really want to say something mean, but are you out of your mind? If you're in an FFA game, just build a marketplace. Why would you give up a 20% production speed buff to all cav for the entire game? Right? Because I get to produce these cav in 30 seconds. No, I can't defend this. Like, Chamber of Commerce, it just doesn't feel good at all. This whole idea that you get 1 free trader for each eco upgrade, that means across the course of the game, you can get 11 workers for free, right? Maybe 12, because I think... No, the trade tech doesn't give you 1, right? So I think it's 11 workers across the course of the game. That's bad. That's such a bad deal. Especially considering that you're locked per age, right? So you can get 5 by the time you're in Feudal. And then you have to wait age after age. I can't condone that, man. Versus School of Cavalry in that late game, when you need to reboom Mass Horsemen, Mass Knights, a 20% difference is incredible. If you want to know how good it is, think about the value of the Abbasids with theirs, right? When they get Golden Age free and they get the increased production, they get out of control. It's a similar logic here. So, Stable's now being dropped, and we're going to have to go for those very sore and painful 35-second wait times. And what? Okay, that I didn't expect. That explains the gold gathering then. He went Pro Scouts. Okay, that's sick. Wait, so we've got Pro Scouts and we've got Chamber of Commerce in a game. This upsets me because I think that Pro Scouts is actually viable in a decent number of matchups. Unfortunately, this is not going to be proof of that because you're against Chamber of Commerce, which means anything would be viable. So Deer's going to be pulled back. Meanwhile, at the base of BC, we are going to be getting the Archer plus stables. There's another sucky thing about when you go for Chamber of Commerce over the SOC, is that you now don't have that flexibility to get more Archer production online straight away because you have to drop the stables. And you're going to scale Knights slower. So what this means is it should be much easier for Anatan Fan to just scale into Spears and Chuginu. But we can see that's not the case at all. They're setting up the outpost, and I'm really liking the look of Puppy Ball's build right now. The delay on that outpost came in at a point where now the hand cannon slits is for free, courtesy of the stone you've generated from the meditation garden. And just a few spearmen and an outpost here is going to buy enough time for Anatan Fan to rush Castle Age. This is sick, and it gets even better because of what Beastie's doing. He's not building into the Knights. He's building Horsemen. There's going to be nothing to threaten the Shaolin monks. This is actually so cool. And Spearmen are moving over here. So it looks like the outpost has gone up. So smart play there by Beastie. He's not going to lose control of his trade. Psych. Let's not forget, trade has to walk across the map. This is also a bit dicey because if you can't see the Stealth Forest, it kind of offsets the advantage that archers have versus spears because you can't keep range, right? So you get stabbed for free. Like, look at the damage that just got done there. Sure, you do hit for double damage. That's 10, but Spearman by default hit for 8. Yeah, crafty. Well played. I like the fact that he's just leveraged the map to get this extra edge. And Spearman will eventually get shut down, but here's the thing now. Instead of Beastie attacking, he's reacting. And while he reacts, the real win condition's underway. Castle Age now on the way. First Knight has been queued up, but he's not coming out for another 20 seconds. And here's another funny thing. You can easily just build 1 or 2 spears and patrol out to these relics to pick them up. What Beastie now needs to do is split archers, knights, all these things between these 3 relics. I think you're going to have to accept that this one's a freebie. You need to handcuff Puppy Paw from more, though. And I think there is a value point for Beast in this game, and it's the fact that most of these relics spawned in close proximity. He's so cool. How much deer does he have under here? He pulled the first stack. He's pulling the secondary. It seems kind of not worth when you're just taking your 2 stacks, but in fairness, you're in a game against knights, horsemen. You're up against French, right? So you expect cavalry. What this means for the Zhu, what it means for Puppy Paw in this situation is instead of having to waste spearmen defending flank resources or wood walling it off, he can just focus on this very clear and clean timing into castle where all of his military might goes into attack and gathering relics. Nothing has to be focused on defending other than an outpost, which you got the hand cannon slits for free. What a cool build, man. I do think that Pro Scouts is going to grow in popularity again, by the way. We've already seen some very creative builds. Zhu in particular have some very interesting openings. We cast a Corvinus game a few weeks ago where he done mass feudal palace guard to beat the Delhi. And I think it was Dumu's Delhi, if I remember correctly. Shaolin Monk's going to come out. A little bit surprised he's not attacking there. Yeah, he got a bit hesitant and started to run away. He would have been better off just standing his ground and walloping a few times there because you hit for 15 damage. So even a French knight would feel that pain. You're going to wrap back around. I mean, honestly, just attack. This is the thing. He can't contest you at all. One thing I don't like is the fact that he already used the Body of Iron, which means he's not going to have any protection now against the archers. It's a little bit of a misplay there, but Lancers are now out and hunting, guys. Traders are being shot down. And we're still in a game now where one plays castle, one plays feudal. And although the trade is starting to inflate a bit, 10 traders on this line leaves you really exposed in a game where you did not build spearmen. So you don't actually have a good answer to Lancers. Push back towards the main. More buildings coming out, so additional stables being built. A few villagers are getting sniped down, but Beastie with this dive, he's going to lose a lot of his control. Yeah, that's going to be the knight pretty much dead. In fact, he's going to die here. The hand cannon slot's coming out. 3 health left over, and that means you've got archers left unguarded against knights. I don't think this works for Beastie. For this strategy to work, he would have needed to have dropped Rax as well to be able to protect that central area. I think this was just more on the smartness of Puppy Paw, though. Playing into Mass Lancers is something I don't think BC was expecting. He might have been anticipating something like PG, right? Or maybe a slower comp, Spearman, Crossbows, that sort of thing. It's just a smart read, though. And you know what I will say is, for anyone going up against the Canadians, you should expect these type of builds. These guys have been rushing into Castle Age Imp builds, which prioritize around Knights consistently. More so than they used to, actually, and it's definitely proving to pay off time and time again here. And that's going to be it. GG gets called. So Chamber of Commerce maintaining its expected win rate here in the newest batch. Yeah, that was actually a very clean build coming out of Puppy Paw. God, why does the game lag so much when I do that? I'll set. Let me restart game. It's lagging a bit. One of the worst landmarks in the game. Oh yeah, dude. Like, I don't... Have I seen a single person win Chamber of Commerce in 2024? I don't think I have. It's French maintaining the expected win rate. French win rate's not that bad, right? Should we check the stats? Am I about to be stat police on this? I'm pretty sure they're fine. What's up, little Robs? Graphics still look like 2003. Of what? This? Joke's on you. This was 1999. So, if we look at French... Oh my god, they've got a 31% win rate. Oh my god, dude. The win rate is so bad. The only Sims they're beating are Mongols, Order of the Dragon, and Abbasids. Oh my god. That is brutal. I didn't think it was going to be great. But, like, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. You're not sure if it's a remark. What? This? This is HOM. Or are you talking about Age of Empires? This is Age of Empires 4, if that's what you mean. Age of Empires 4 is the newest Age of Empires. If you're talking about the HOM, this is, dude, this is peak original graphics, baby. When my HOM HD got this. So yeah, so right there, BritBoy is basically saying the reason why he's his rank is because French is underpowered. There we go. I got you covered, BritBoy. I read between the lines. An urgent economic alternative? Yeah, I mean, like, a lot of civs need that. Right? I've been saying this, like, there's too many landmarks that are just dog crap. It kind of annoys me that a lot of the landmarks don't get rejigged. Like, the Abbey of Kings getting rejigged was very smart. Don't get me wrong, you're always going to get meta, but some of these landmarks, especially in the feudal age, are so far apart, it's facepalm. What happened to the politics talk? I thought British preferential voting reform was going to come up. Oh no, not this crap. What, you mean the fact that my family voted Labour, so I have to vote Labour as well, because we vote Labour. Yeah, I hate that crap. I'd rather people just vote using their brain. That would be great. No, don't get us down that line again, man. We don't need to go back there. That's going to be a big oof. Okay, so let's have a look. Next up, ooh, do we want to check Crackety games or Louis games? Do you guys... Whoa. I'd usually say no to an English mirror, but do we want to see one when it's Louis versus Puppy Paw? Do we make an exception for that? We've also got Louis versus Myriad. We got another Louis versus Puppy Paw. So we got an English mirror. They also had an Abbasid versus Delhi game. I think we can make an exception for, like... I usually don't do mirrors, but every once in a while I'll do it. No good option to vote for anymore. Similar to our political system. Oh, you made that. Oh my god, we're back to being a political streamer. I mean, dude, you know what? I wouldn't mind being a political streamer. Those guys make bank. You know how much they can make on a sponsorship? Whew. I think what people don't realize is even when you get like deals as a gaming influencer, like the sponsorship rates are going to be notably lower than practically any other type of influencer because it's considered a low income, what's the word? A low income branch of marketing. I'm not kidding. They categorize it the same as memes. All right, shall we get ready for another game? Oh, thank you, I Never Die. You know what I done? I brushed my eyebrows. I'm glad you noticed. Oh, God. Usually, I would, without hesitation, say no to an English mirror, unless it had Don Artie in it. So I'm glad to say, no, this one doesn't have Don. Calm down. Anatan's biggest fan is, in fact, no other than Puppypaw, #1 on the leaderboard right now, going up against China's kid prodigy here. It is, of course, Team Elephant's Louis MT. These are the type of people I make exceptions to the norm for. Like, you know, if I was seeing most players doing a mirror, I'd be like, yawn past, let's go do something better with our time. These two I'm willing to make an exception for because I feel like we just don't get to see them enough. Usually when we're talking about tournaments and brackets, I feel like they end up on the opposite side of the brackets. So it's pretty cool to kind of get a little bit of a scope in on them, especially considering right now there's so many different builds coming up with the English that of all the civs at the moment in a mirror, I'd say this is the one that is still being ironed out. Even though the changes didn't look big, I'd say these were the ones that had the biggest changes. I know a lot of people are going to highlight HRE or Byzantine, but I think in terms of the permutations in a mirror, there isn't too much that's changed there compared to the previous patch. But this king especially has changed a lot, and this is already looking very different. Puppypaw has been a very big fan of his farm openings. Anyone who's been watching his Byzantine games will be familiar with the first farm drop straight away into a second and third a few minutes into the game. This is similar to that logic, right? Like when you're playing as the Byzantines, you spend 60 wood per farm. He's only spending the cost of 1 normal farm to get 2 down. And the cool thing about doing this in this matchup, in a mirror, small differences make the mile. And one thing that can become a big difference, we've seen it time and time again in tournament play, in a mirror, if you get severely more sheep than your opponent, you can end the game quickly. Now, one interesting detail, I'm a little bit surprised by this. Puppypaw didn't hang around longer to scout, but it is fine. He scouted enough. He got to the edge of the enemy base and then came back. He didn't dart across the center. It looks like he knew there was no sheep left over there. So this means now that Puppypaw should end up with about 2/3 of the sheep on the map. So a good choice by Blue. Like, this is a lesson everyone should take. I genuinely am not exaggerating when I say it can just bump your rank up quite a bit once you optimize this, is scout rotations and understanding the details that lead to longer rotations. The obvious ones are when you play a Basses, Delhi, these type of civs, just go on berries. When you play Japanese, get Tawada, go on berries. With the English, this farm opening allowed him to get away with being away longer and not running out of sheep. So cool read there. Unfortunately, on the tail end, it looks like he locked out on the sheep dosage, because by my calculations, there were no sheep in that northern corner. 1. Are you kidding me? Okay, he missed one other hit. Wait, so this northern corner spawned 2 sheep total. I'm calling scam. That's insane. I actually can't believe he got so few sheep in that area. And what makes it sadder is, wait, did Lou just find one here and he's going to find another here? So after all that brag about how cool the build is, this happens. You're basically 1 sheep apart. Now, I could turn this into a long conversation about how much of a scam rotations are and how sheep RNG shouldn't be able to decide games. I'm going to save that for a podcast on another day because I feel like I do that at least 3 times a month. It's unfortunate. This does happen. Really, Puppypaw should have been somewhere between, I'd say, about 60 to 70% of the sheep with his rotation. Ends up being, I think, about a 55-45 split. So, considering the double farm investment so early, not a great position to find yourself in. Abbey of Kings is still more optimal for him, though. It looks like Anatan fan is going to be complete with this about an extra 5 or 6 seconds earlier. Shouldn't matter too much because basically you're going to have to run to the enemy base. But it will allow you to be in a position where you can hold Louis hostage in his own base, sort of. Because if he mirrors your move and tries to head to your base, you'll already be diving in on his villagers a few seconds before him. Wish you could see sheep dots on minimap. I don't know about that. I just think the conceptually, the idea of sheep and how they function isn't great. I almost feel like I want to see more maps that experiment with the idea of additional game and hunt. The reason why we don't have that, by the way, is because of Roost's existence. If they just bothered to change how Roost operated, how their bounty system worked, we'd probably see a lot more deer on certain maps, maybe even some maps that have no sheep, but have lots of deer. And then we can see how that functions as a game mechanic, right? Because I've talked with devs about this before, and they share my sentiment that it can really suck when a game is decided by who gets more sheep. I can tell you another thing that someone's going to have more of. Lou's going to have more villagers. Look at what's happened here. Puppy Paw has not moved out for stone whatsoever. Now, this is interesting because I think Louis is doing what I'd call the more standard build right now of Abbey of Memes, which is 2TC. I feel like the majority of games that feature Abbey of Kings actually has this right now. But I know that Puppy Paw and Wham between them have been going through more evolutions of the English builds than I think any other players on the ladder. So he's definitely got something spicy in mind here. I imagine we're going to be looking at maybe some stables. In fact, yeah, he's already got it there. So Horsemen plus Knights. This is cool. Because Louis has no defenses, right? I think I'd love to see maybe Puppy Paw just tries to add a few Horsemen in here and eventually goes Castle. It's probably going to be worth getting Blacksmith's Undermesh. Blacksmith's Undermesh will allow you to dive the enemy base non-stop. And thank you very much, Ahoy Sailors. You know what? I'd take that bet. $5 on English winning the game. You're gonna get, I can give you a return of nothing. If you give me $5, I'll give you $5 back for that. That's how that works. I'll set up the Gamba station because, yeah, this is an interesting matchup now. Like the Horseman detail, I've seen a few more players doing it. It's really smart. Just imagine how powerful all these raiding civs you face off against, like Sipahi, Ghazi, whatever it would be, if they had healing behind them. Oh, wait, some of them do. Think about those games where you see a Delhi player just top off all the Ghazi after raiding. It's insanely powerful. This is something English now have access to. Said it in previous recordings, and I stand my ground, and I stick to my guns on this. People are going to learn very quickly in this patch how OP Feudal Age healing can be. King's going to be able to stand his ground, but you know, the interesting thing now is with the arrival of the Horseman, things get a little bit more difficult. Louis has to fully wall himself in. The good news is he's picked the English. The English have double arrow TC fire plus the network of castles, so they're pretty good at tanking against these charge-ins. The problem, however, is we can see that was not the intent coming from Puppy Paw. It was a bait. This is what I love about this build. The Abbey of Kings is so powerful because it forces reactions. And what I love is the fact that Puppy Paw took that element of reactivity and then see if he could fish for more. And you might say, well, KP, he didn't really get much, right? These horsemen can't do anything. Actually, he did. He forced this commitment into walls from Louis. Louis now built 14 slabs of palisade, which ends up being about 100 resources, roughly. I think it's actually 91 wood. It's just more than that because of the initial cost. So you're looking at, I think, 105 wood into walls. And that's before we equate the idle time of your villagers doing that, right? And now, even though Puppy Paw is behind on economy, he's going to be up on age by quite the advantage. Horseman hanging around. A little bit surprised by that, but I guess, that's kind of interesting. He wants to stop the heal. Louis not going to fall for it, though. That's really smart out of the kid. If Louis walks out into the mid-map, he's going to lose that king, right? Because Horseman will hunt him down. Because that's what was happening, is that Puppy Paw was trying to just cycle in the Horseman, get them low HP, and then heal the king. And then once Louis walks past this threshold with like 60 health, you jump him and kill him. But Louis, good discipline here, isn't going to take the bait. Meanwhile, King's Pass now on the way at home for Anatan Fan. Now, in terms of farm transitions, they are about even Stevens here. But the interesting part is now with the age up, you adding kings into the mat with the knight, all of a sudden Louis is not going to be able to fight. So if the timing's right on this, if Anatan gets in quick enough, sorry, Anatan Fan, aka Puppy Paw, then he will be able to start diving and killing Eco. So Louis needs to be quick about this. It will most definitely be a white tower. If you do not build white tower, you're going to die. Full stop. Like, there's no debating that. Are you kidding me? How did he get away with that? So King's now going to have some assistance on the way as knights are being queued up. I'm wondering, does Puppy Paw just rush into a monastery here? It's very burdenous on your economy because you're now going 2TC and then monastery as well. But you've got map control. It makes sense. So here we go. He is going to be moving out for those relics straight away. And the logic of this is that Louis isn't going to have anything to contest you yet, but this is the cool thing about the white tower builds. By going for the white tower, even when you tech up behind your opponent, you now have ability to scale their knights comparatively. That's actually why you see Puppy Paw going for the double stable though. Because by being double stables, you're going to stay ahead of the white tower build. Because remember, this is 2 stables in 1. Live coming in. That's the raid here. We'll find a villager kill. In fact, he's going to go even deeper. Smart play. Remember, the king, he does get buffed up when you age up. So right now, he's ridiculously tanky. Almost 300 HP, 3 ranged armor, and 20 damage per strike. So he's thrown away the horseman to do as much damage as possible. I do think he hung around a bit too long here, though. Puppy Paw, to me, this was kind of expensive. You could argue it was worth it, though, if you think about the fact that he idled about 30 villages for 10 seconds-ish. If you then, like, divide that value, right, it comes down to, what, 5 villages idled for a minute kind of feeling. And if you consider a villager gives you about 40 to 50 resources around there, then the king costing 200 resources means that was worth it. So pretty cool detail there. And it's not just the raw cost and idle time you have to remember, it's also the tech delay. Because Louis got delayed by an extra 15, 20 seconds, all of a sudden the count of knights is an even bigger advantage for Puppy Paw. It's cool how these small details can make the difference, though. I hope people are kind of like taking notes when they're watching players like this, because it's very intriguing to just think of how 10 seconds can be worth it in that situation, especially when your opponent overreacts. Like, I think Louis slightly overreacted there. When the king was like cycling around, he could have pulled villagers out to continue building up. He didn't need to idle the second TC at all. But this is the thing, like, it's very easy to panic when you've got this very chunky knight coming into your base and you have 0 military. And yes, Photo, that's very historically accurate. England having 2 kings, that's how the War of the Roses began, right? So, you know, boom. We love arguing over our claims. Weird little charge coming out from Puppy Paw. I think he needs to wait for the king to engage here. But the logic is he wants to keep Louis in this corner so he can gather the relics elsewhere. So it makes a lot of sense when you think about it that way, right? Like, as it stands, Louis is guarding the back flank relics, but the central ones aren't being contested. So it means Puppy Paw is very easily going to turn this into a free relic game. And then we'll look to fight Louis over the 4th and 5th. And we can already see that Louis has prepped himself to immediately start going after those relics as well. I think this is going to be a 4-1 relic split, actually. Puppy Paw's already moving for the northern side relic, and let's be totally real, with the numbers as they are, Louis can't go elsewhere, right? Right now, he's at risk of being outnumbered. The only way he can win a fight is courtesy of his king, and if he has numbers in his favor. Unfortunately, he's not going to have either very soon, considering the king is now on his way back. It's quite an elegancy about the balance of these dances, right? Like, this is why I thought this would be a good matchup to watch, is typically English play right now. Mirrors aren't super sucky because they turn into knight spams, which are quite cool to see because of how fast they interact with each other, right? It's similar to when you watch kind of a French versus French matchup. It can have some interesting nuances. If this was going to be the old school build with Council Hall and Longbow Mass, I would never have clicked on it. So 2 more relics on the way home. Safe one in the corner yet to be nabbed, and Puppy Paw does know about that. He just hasn't moved for it yet. This is looking pretty good. If we consider that each relic is worth 80 gold, and that's about roughly 2 villages, that's going to be 4 to 1, which means you can add in an extra 6 villages. That's the eco difference. So really good position for Puppy Paw to be in. And of course, you know, as the game goes on, that gold trickle is going to become more and more invaluable as the veins are removed from the map, right? As gold becomes more limited. That's the thing that I always like to highlight, relics versus villages, because I noticed that's come up in chat. The value of relics is they actually have a very good surge return in terms of what you invest and what you get back. But the other more interesting detail is the fact that villages can eventually be capped, right? If I'm 10 villages behind, there's a way I recover that at a point in the game. Eventually, you're going to reach your threshold of like 140. You won't want more. And then I catch up. If I have 3 more relics than you, the only catch up you have is delete my monastery. This game's getting tough now, folks. Louis is going to have to go for Imperial. The problem is, with this many knights, it might cost him quite a bit. In fact, the only thing that's really missing for Puppy Paw is the blacksmiths. I think rushing that would have been a smart read to try and get the dive going. Because diving this white town might prove expensive. And in fact, Puppy Paw is going all in on this. It means Louis is going to have to go for Berkshire just to stay alive. Yeah, there's no negotiating. I've talked about this before that Wingard is better. I always think Wingard is better. But when you're forced to build Berkshire, you have to do it. And what feels really bad for Louis is being forced to build Berkshire here is a death sentence if you can't end the game quickly. Because if you don't end the game quickly, then your opponent's going to get Wingard. Wingard gives so many options. Footmen are incredible. Wingard Raiders allow you to catch up, right? Like, that's the other thing that Louis is missing when he has to go Berkshire here, is he won't have that surge point of getting mass knights. He'll just be stuck scaling with, what, 4 stables worth from the 2 keeps. Looks like Louis is on the march out. He's going to wish he wasn't, though. Oh my god. So Louis just got confirmation that Puppy Paw isn't going Imperial. Although that's not entirely true, is it? Because now on a delay, he's prepping for it. Raid comes in on the villagers. Louis is going to chip down a few. But he might get trapped on the exit here. Just about slivers his way out. Berkshire now on the way at home. And Puppy Paw, interestingly enough, adding in more knights. So he must know there's a tech coming, right? When you see this many knights show up the king, you're probably thinking, okay, like I haven't been raided elsewhere, so he's not split his troops up. He's going towards Imperial Age. So you immediately see Puppy Paw queues up the knights, then cancels them, and he's going to now look to mirror in the footsteps of Louis. Yeah, that's a smart read. Like, you could see for a moment he thought about doubling down, but when he saw no additional waves, it just makes sense what this game's turning into. And it makes the choice really simple for Puppy Paw. This should be a Wingard. Love the fact that he split the knights as well. Half to defend, half to raid. And look at the place he strikes. Louis on his gold vein, his secondary gold. Nowhere near the Berkshire. Now, this is the negative sometimes of close gold spawns, is you think it's beneficial because you can defend one location. But in a game like this, when you have to defend the fort, you're going to have to choose. Do you want to lose the head or lose the arms? It's like he chose to lose the arms, but it means that Louis now might lose the arms race. He can only scale Spearman. He hasn't got much gold to get what he needs now that it's Imperial Age. Yeah, this is something I take issue with, the idea of always rushing Imperial Age. If you don't have good gold secured, then you don't actually have a real Imperial Age. Unless you want to go mass hand cannoneers, but even that requires gold, right? So, like, there's not many civs that can justify just a raw Imperial. The reason you see HRE do it all the time is because what they want out of it is villages, right? Like, that's what they need. But when you're a lot of other civs, it's about elite upgrades. Elite upgrades cost 700 gold each. So you want elite spearmen, then you want to get your hands on elite army tactics. You want all these things. All of a sudden, I've just said those two techs, that's 1,400 gold on its own. Then you add in enclosures, all of a sudden that's another 350 gold. You start to see these numbers just escalating in your head, right? It gets out of control insanely fast. And that's why I prefer the build now for Puppy Paw, because you just see on a delay, Wingard's coming in, it's the better one. But also, because he's accrued all these relics, and he's still gathering gold as he techs up, he's going to be able to get the Knights into elite status. He's going to be able to get Biology immediately if he wants to. He can afford many things which Louis simply cannot. In fact, Louis, if he wants to stay in this game, needs to secure the western flank. This 8k gold is his salvation. He's only got, what, 3k over here? Unless you just want to be spears, you're not going to have scalability. And the idea of just going spears here feels like a death sentence. Because if I see you're doing this, I can easily switch into either men-at-arms or archers as blue. That's not entirely true. With Wingard Palace, you do need to spend money on upgrades, because if you're going raiders, yes. But if you're going footmen rangers, you are correct. You don't need to spend money on that. And it's just going to be a footman game. This is going to get rough. Louis, the problem is this got scouted, right? Because it attacked some of the raiding knights. So Puppy Paw knows he's up against Berkshire. He has full confirmation. So footman's kind of a no-brainer. And now you're seeing Louis going for the melee mosh pits. Men-at-arms and spears. Last of the Knights should be getting chopped down here. Almost gets the pincher. But this is the end of the road for Green's mobility now. They're playing static comp. We've seen Louis do this to great success against some players, actually. I think most notably, recently, we watched him do it to Beastie, where he non-stop men-at-arms against the Chinese. And it worked, actually, surprisingly enough. The difference here is one of quality and a similar concept. But what makes it worse still is you're going to have to dive into static defenses, which give an aura. So these footmen were already going to win. Now they're going to win even harder. An interesting place to burn through. Elite statuses are coming in soon. Knights could actually cut reinforcements. I'd prefer that here. Just take the small group of reinforcements, let the footmen deal with this. In fact, he's got elite stats coming through soon. Seeing if there's a reaction, and there isn't. Louis doesn't get the brace out. Oh, wow, and that's going to be a bad fight. Knight upgrade coming in just a few seconds. The spearmen, more delayed. And the footmen get left behind. So good clear up now for the footmen. Means you just have to run away from them. But wave after wave is queuing, guys. We're already up to 12 footmen. Soon we are going to be up to 30. Remember, these guys only take, what was it, 45 seconds? No military academy though, right? I think he's been prepping the Undermesh instead. He didn't rush into military academy, which I think is actually a more valuable tech in these type of games. Am I blind? There it is. Oh, sorry, he did get it. Okay, yeah. So wait, we should be lower than that, right? Yeah, we're 34. Okay. You gotta be careful of that. The UI sometimes just lies to you. So you have to check down here. Yeah, mark my words. This build is going to get more and more popular. Military Academy with Footman gets kind of insane. With Raiders, even more so. I love the fact he's going back for Raiders. He got the elite status on the Knights. He produces these guys an insane 19 seconds. Every 19 seconds, he's getting 3 Knights and 3 Horsemen. He's not getting an insane discount, but he's actually still saving money because the Raiders cost 850 resources. If you just got the Knights on their own, that would be 720 resources. So you're actually getting, like, what, 2 Horsemen for free? While getting them at an insane pace. Outside of this, we still don't have Blacksmiths yet from Louis, do we? No, a little bit surprised by that, actually. I mean, you're playing Men-at-Arms, you haven't fully upgraded them, there's no Armor-Clad yet. Spearmen do benefit a lot at this stage from base damage increases, especially when you then add in Elite Army Tactics as well. Remember, guys, Military Academy is the one that increases your production speed by 33%. You are correct. I think we're prepping walls now. You can already see Puppy Paws gathering a lot of stone. This is pretty natural when Rocky River reaches late game. You just stonewall between these little intersections, and it gives you full control of the game. Louis with an insanely wide flank here. Hasn't been seen yet. Interesting enough, there are footmen marching around this area, though. So you might get some damage done. You can see Knights and footmen on the other side. What worries me is Louis is now running out of gold. He's at least walled on the east side, but that means the 8k gold still isn't secured. And keep drop now coming in. So actually, it looks like instead, Puppy Paw isn't going to get the walls up. He's going to look to secure the fat gold. Those Raiders have now arrived on the backside. So burn from the power save wall is going to require a reaction. Looks like troops are on the way, but not quickly. However, the beauty of the Wingard Raiders is how quickly you get an answer here. Insane how fast you can just replicate an army at home to defend yourself with. In fact, like, what did this count go down to? Can anyone remember this? I feel like it went down to 18 or something. The rate at which these cavalry numbers have been going up is insane. What I find most interesting about this build is it essentially turns a fairly slow civ into a fast one, and also a pacing civ. This is Zerg. This is premium Zerg. It's kind of like the impact that you get out of the fast castle Japanese build, but focused around Imperial instead. And this is an absolute massacre. I mean, there's no elite army tactics, right? Sure, there's no biology on the other side. It just simply doesn't matter. However, soon, guys, there will be elite army tactics, and with this many footmen, that has to be a GG. If Louis doesn't get a counter, a clear, clean counter to this, he's simply going to die to it. You know, it's interesting because a long time ago when we used to see English mirrors, it was widely accepted that Wingard Palace was the win condition. If you forced your opponent to go for Berkshire, you knew you had late game. I don't think it's any different. Like, it's the exact same matchup in that way. And if you look at this game, Louis doesn't really have many upsides for him. He's ahead on economy, which is great, sure, but the relic count is always going to remain against him. The Wingard factor is going to remain against him. These are things that he cannot change. And as we mentioned earlier, this villager count is only temporary. Why doesn't he build Lombos against the Spearman build? Because he wants to keep pace. Like, if he keeps building like this, the Footman will eventually win, but then the Knights can raid and kill Eco. It's just a lot quicker. Like, Lombos are not going to want to die for Berkshire, right? They'll die to it. They'll take too long. But these guys will just overwhelm. And the problem is Louis is getting to a point where he has to fight. Oh my dear God. You know what? We have to get a British name going for these guys. Reginald Reboldequin is on the way. Imagine if he just does the same, though, out of the keep in the center. You know what's crazy? Is, like, actually, Reboldequins is the correct call for both of these players. We're in an English game where not a single ranged unit has been built other than a Reboldequin the entire game. Oh my God. This is genuinely the perfect Reboldequin game. Nice reaction straight away. Puppy Paw says, hold up. I see that. I ain't fighting with it. Please, please queue up a Revoltiquin as well. I need this. Shot comes out. Not super effective, though. And by the way, what kind of sucks is that this is range damage against chunkier footmen. And remember, footmen have higher ranged armor than melee armor. So you're actually doing less damage to these guys than if it was just mass men-at-arms. Revoltiquin will stand his ground, though. Wait, what did he even shoot there? Did he even shoot? I can't believe it looks so bad. I think he killed like 2 footmen and then died. But don't worry, folks. Have no fear. Reginald II is on the way. I don't know where he is. Oh my god. Revoltiquins are so bad. I feel like Revoltiquins only ever works against mass spearmen. I don't know if it's bugged as well. Like, watch. Sometimes watching it, it feels like it's bugged. You know, as a person who played Cossacks growing up, I wish it was like the multi-cannon, but it really isn't. Anyone who's played Cossacks knows exactly what I'm talking about. Sadly, Revoltiquins are, quite frankly, underwhelming. But not so underwhelming that Puppy Paw wouldn't consider building them as well. GG gets called. It turns out, even in a perfect melee game, Revoltiquins still will not be your savior. Oh my god, dude. That unit is so bad. Would it be clickbaity to call that the perfect game for a Revoltiquin? I don't think it would be, would it? Dear Quinn. And it still sucks. No, I think I just call that like the perfect game for a Revoltiquin and they still suck. Right? Like, that's actually a thing. Like, that's not even clickbait at that point. It's just, it's so true. That was, like, the game where Revoltiquin could look good. But, like, yes, he had mass issue, but even if he had equal numbers, the Revoltiquins would not have made a difference, in my honest opinion. They wouldn't have done anything worthwhile there. It's just such a bad piece of Siege. I still remember a game from, like, a few years back now. Like, it was a year and a half or so ago. It was B versus Dumu, and B was playing as the French. He had the Royal Revoltiquins. And he built like 8 of them. And we're still losing to Abbasid Spear Archers. Atri versus Marlian. Can you present that map? No, I will not present that match. Maybe. Do people want Beastie versus Gully Deckle? Or do they want... what else we got here? We've got Louis versus Puppy Paw again. We've got Louis versus the Scarlet Devil person. We've got Kiljadi versus Beastie. We've got Krakody versus Zerton. We've got Krakody versus... Wait, who's Louis? Oh, Cat. Or we've got the aforementioned Beastie versus Gully. We want it all? Well, then subscribe. Otherwise, half of it you'll miss behind ads. That's just how the world works. I'm not even going to remember how to spell Gully Deckle's name fully. I'm just going to put it like that. He can suck it up and deal with that. So let me have a look here. Let me grab Beastie. So I guess we'll look at the Gully game. So what map was it? Rocky River? No. There we go. I think I've got it. I keep trying to wave my eyes around so I can't see the results at all. No Voldy game today. We'll probably look at some Voldemar. I think we've got, what was it? There's going to be a Voldemar versus, who was this? It was some player from China that usually ranks quite highly. He had 2 games against them. So that's what we've got on the Voldemar plate today. You think the spread damage is too narrow on Robotiquins? It kind of is. Yeah. It's like, it should be a shotgun effect, right? It should be shoot, spread, like that. CSO? I'm not sure if it's CSO. It's so hard to track CSO. The dude always changes his name and account. Alright, but I think we should be ready to go with this one. Do we really have to watch a Marlian game? Am I the only one that gets bored of Marlian games? Like, let me know if this is just on me. I feel like Marlians is it's always about the Fulani. Am I the only one who gets tired of Marlian games? Like, be honest with me, guys. Because I genuinely feel like every single time I watch this Civ, they only care about one thing. They're more obsessed with beef than me, a British person. The Fulani is all that matters to them. It's coveted. So that's probably what we're going to be able to see here. Or maybe Beastie's got something more creative in mind. Maybe Gully can force him off that timing, because we are looking at Beastie Cutie going up against Gully Deckle. Gully, who I think is still unbeaten on the HRE, at least from what I've been seeing. I don't think I've watched him lose once on this Civ. So this is the Civ that, if you guys remember, we put a video out just the other week, which is this guy has 100% win rate on HRE. Gully Deckle claimed 5th place, I think it was, on the leaderboard, was his peak, just playing HRE. He's fallen down a little bit since. If I double check, I think he was down to like 30, 40, 63rd in the world right now at the time of recording. Still a respectable place to be in. He hasn't been able to play as many games. He's been busy with school at the moment. 48 games played until 1800 elo. Beastie, of course, is doing a lot better. He is sitting close to tippity top. If I'm not mistaken, he's 5th on the leaderboard right now. 8th with 2116 elo. And BC hasn't been playing that many 1v1s at the moment, right? I think he's finally getting back in the groove, but he was taking quite a long break on the free-for-alls. So we'll see if maybe that's an advantage for Gully Deckle. Gully is an interesting fella, if you're not familiar with him. Gully is 16 years old. They're a school kid, but they are at a point where I think they're close to breaking through into regular tournament appearances. I'm not going to say they're on a Louis MT level, but I think, you know, if you think of a lot of people around there, like Myriads, Voldemars, you can see them easily taking games from players like that. I'm not going to say stomping them, but definitely taking games. So, promising future. I think a lot of people are paying attention to this guy right now. And this is indeed his signature Civ. This kid must have been jumping with joy as if it was Christmas when he saw the HRE buffs. Hopefully, those HRE buffs are going to lead to quite a lot of feudal aggression, because I think you don't want to rush towards Castle here in this matchup, right? I feel like if that happens, Marlians rush Castle too, and they can block you out of some of these relics. In fact, I would say rushing Castle against Marlians here is a really big mistake because of the new sofa build. Everyone's like, new sofa build? KP. People have been building sofas for years on the Marlians. Sofas in Feudal Age. What you do now is there's this cool little alternate build where if you know your opponent is not going to field many units in the early age, you still drop the ranches and you still rush towards Castle with the Fulani, but you add in 3 or 4 sofas before doing so, up to maximum, say, 6 to 8. And that gives you a lot of agency on the map. It's a really effective combo against any relic gathering type Civ. Sure, this relic gathering Civ is going to get into Knights, but the cool thing is sofas move quicker than Knights, and it still doesn't stop you intercepting the Prelates non-stop. So we'll see if he wants to go for it. Mansa is going to be the standard choice. Gold spawns aren't too bad either for Beastie. He's got 2 on the left side here that should be semi-reachable. Especially in an late phase game like this, I don't think he should have too much aggro up against him. Scout Hall also looking really good for Gully Deckle. Gully, remember, with the HRE in the first few minutes, you're going to gather through sheep a lot quicker than other Civs, but yeah, he still has 13 sheep. Meanwhile, Beastie is sitting on 5. That's rough. That's actually going to slow him down. That also makes the sofa build I was talking about a lot harder. It means that he's probably going to have to consider butchering a few of the cows or moving out for, say, deer on the front, which feels very dangerous to do when you know fast castle's coming in. So maybe the way that we could see Beastie doing well for himself here, I'd love the idea of just pushing deer in here. That would be really smart. right? Like, we don't actually see it very often with Malians, but it makes a lot of sense. And Gully, if he gets his timing wrong, isn't going to intercept it, right? Like, I think the cool idea of doing Deer shove in here is that no one really would expect a Malian player to shove Deer, right? Because of what I just mentioned. We run out of sheep, great. We just build cattle, and we gather from cattle quicker. Let's see what Gully's going to get up to here, though. With 10 villagers on wood, yeah, we're getting the feudal all in. This is much smarter. I definitely prefer this. So cool thing about this as well is like you could go for men-at-arms or you could go for spears. If you think there's going to be sofas, 100% spears are needed, but typically you're going to see men-at-arms as an opener. You're going to build 3 men-at-arms and then add in archers afterwards. And usually what I like to see is like double archery range, solo racks. Because the cool idea is with your 40% better economy, you can skill enough archers that you can even beat back Javs. It's not free, it's not easy against the Malians, but it is actually feasible. Gully Deckle in German means manhole cover. So in future, we should call him a manhole cover. That's only going to be appropriate if he gets flattened here. Like a manhole cover. I'm trying to think of the way that PC could potentially play this, because right now he's just doing racked archery range. That should favor him, right? Like, he's got the premium units, because you can already see Gully's actually adding in spears, expecting the sofas. This is the worst thing you could possibly do. The issue is that Gully has to react as if it's going to come down the line, because if he sees the sofa and then starts building spears, anything outside the enemy base is going to get disintegrated. So it doesn't feel great to have to do this, but it does feel essential. The upside, at least, is if you're building the spears, your opponent should logically be building Javs, so you don't get bonus damage against you. But Donzos will still beat spears. What gets weirder here, though, I just saw that. He's going Musafadi. He did just cancel, which I think is good. That was almost a critical blunder there. Just building Musafadi, because you see the first men-at-arms could kill you here. So instead, it's going to be a Jav to start off with. This is smart. Gully is not going to dive your base at 8 minutes in with Feudal Age men-at-arms being under 10 number, right? So you have time. The worst possible thing you can do here if you're Beastie is rush out a bunch of Donzos or Musafadi before you have a reason to do one or the other. That would kill you. He's getting the Muso. So if we're talking like raw cost, Musafadi makes more sense, right? Than Donzos. I think the only reason you want to get Donzos instead is if you were gold capped, like you had no gold access, right? He is only on 1 pit mine, but with the Mansa and the pit mine together, Musafadi is actually quite scalable. It's a little bit difficult on the Javelin numbers though, because that's the thing you're sacrificing, right? Is all of your comp now requires gold. Yeah, that's why I thought maybe we see Donzos. Another cool thing about Donzos is the hybridized form, right? They throw javelins themselves. Nice guard here by the archer. So we'll push Beastie back temporarily. Burn through coming in on the east side. A little bit difficult here, right? You're up against the javelins. It makes it very easy to defend against these initial waves. In fact, you're already seeing the damage even Spim and take. Like 8 base damage rather is quite high. However, Beastie getting a little bit too close there. Blacksmith is already in the way. We can see Siege Engineering is coming in now for Gully. Love the fact he's ramping up pressure. I think he's realized the mistake made here of how long it takes to burn through this wall. It's not something he wants to redo, right? Because likely what's going to happen is you're going to dive in, take a fight, trade, and then leave again. And when you leave, the wall's going to go back up. If you then have to burn through like this with, let's say, 5, 6, 7 javelins attacking you, you're going to lose way too many troops. Mesh now being queued up. Gully should be looking to rush into Steeled Arrow now. You're about to approach 10 archers. By the time Steeled Arrow complete, you're going to be at about 13 to 14 archers. So you really want to make sure you got that optimal timing, because you revealed archers. He should see the blacksmiths. In fact, he has indeed scouted it with the scout there. So now it's paramount that you get into your techs as well. Farms getting added in pretty early also. In some ways surprising. I actually would love to see Gully just take 1 unit and push these deer in. Highly underrated here. But let's be totally real. Like, the reason why he probably doesn't want to do this is he's put his production in the way of the deer push. The deer need to be pushed to the Archon, and your production's here. This is one of those situations where building the production a bit further forward would have paid dividends. And you might think that's risky because you're going to lose it eventually, but this is a game where Gully's looking to be all in anyway, right? Like, you can see he's not slowing down. So the idea of building your production looser from your base isn't a bad thing here at all. Especially against the Malians. Malians are mainly going to use javelins in their comp, which means they don't have much burn power, right? If half their resources are going into a throwable, they're not going to have much to torch down buildings with. Ram in the meantime. Talk about reasons why you need to have melee units in your comp. Ram unaddressed right now. These men at arms with marching drills are just insane. So good burn through. Gully, I'd love to see a bit more clown carring here. I think this is critically underrated in these situations because you could force the Musafadi in range. It's a little bit surprising to me that he's not using that tool. Gully has at least now got the Steeled Arrow. No undermesh though. Rams are going to start causing a housing crisis. Looks like Beastie did at least set up on the left side vein though, so he's not going to run out of gold anytime soon. He is, however, starting to run out of food here. Missed opportunity. I think the Rams could actually easily hit into the ranch. Would have been better than hitting the houses right now. Men at arms are going to have to shift away as the Musafadi numbers high enough to force him back. Yeah, a little bit of an overextension. I've seen this a lot out of H3 players where they value the marching drills too highly and they don't utilize the clown carring as much as other civs would. Sitting in this Ram was the easiest way to force bad fights from Beastie. Because he would have had to have ran in with the Musafadi, and then you just come out, archers just snipe down, boom, move on. Instead, you were just doing this tug of war where you were losing more troops anyway. Ram does finally go down. Rewall's going to come in. Behind this Gully is now adding in a lot more archers. We're going 3 archery ranges, only 1 Rax. We're reaching a dangerous point for that though, right? Like, Woodline is not going to be efficient for very long at this pacing. He's already chomped through half the tree line. This is something that usually gets slept on with the HRE. Everyone says how imba the 40% gathering is. I understand where you're coming from, but the flip side of that argument is, if you survive the initial onslaught, HRE's economy gets very weak. Because all of a sudden, all this wood that you put to the Archer Mass, you don't have for a farm transition, right? And as the game goes on, the only thing you're going to get value out of this Archenfall are farms. These other resources are going to be out of range. Alright, 1s if you favor Gully's position right now, 2s if you think BC's in a better position. I'm curious what the read is from people watching this, whether live or later. I'll tell you my opinion in a sec. Steeled Arrow now also coming in. Not as important with jabs, but it's just an extra edge. It's decent against the men at arms. It's just going to give him an easier answer to poke and prod. The reason why Steeled Arrow typically is very good with Mullins, even on jabs that have high base damage already, ergo they get less of a percentage increase from it, is because of the range. It's just free DPS. You just poke and prod and move away. Beastie, we are getting a second ranch added in, but he's very light on the cattle commitment right now. So a lot of people are saying 2s. It's interesting, isn't it? You'd think 2s, but here's an interesting thought for you. Gully has map control. He's forced a static comp, one that isn't going to come out quickly. He's now taking up. So actually, Gully could easily get 4 relics here and make this a good situation for him, because we're now 12 minutes in the game, and Beastie only has 2 ranches. It's important that Gully doesn't overextend, though. If he gets a little bit too aggressive and throws away half the army, then these Musafadi will guard all the relics. If it doesn't, though, Musafadi are going to struggle to flank relics, especially considering archers move at the same speed as them. So Gully. Should be Regnitz coming out, no doubt in my mind. If you go Burgrave here, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. There we go. My lad knows. Regnitz now on the way. Would love to see him produce a second Prelate. I actually think timing's of critical importance here. Your opponent has built quite a big feudal army. When you reveal your tech up, logically, Beastie should be looking to attack. Because if he hasn't been adding in many ranches, he can't just rush his own age up, right? He's going to want to do damage to you. And this is something that players have become incredibly good at doing, is understanding in any situation where you tech up second, you have an opening to punish your opponent. Unless you've completely thrown your game away in the early game, right? Like, if you've lost 4 fights in a row, you're not going to punish, but you haven't lost a fight that mattered here. So Beastie is going to get an opportunity to punish. Moves out now with the jabs. I'm wondering, Beastie looking at this, he probably just checked the numbers and saw that there's been no increase in army. He knows. He knows the tech up is happening, which is why he's moving out. Perfect timing out of Alex here. Regnit's now complete. Prelates have been queued up. And 1 already on the way out to the central relic. However, Gully, in the meantime, now has to shy away. And I mean, this is the problem with wanting to have your cake and eating it, right? Gully postured it in a way that suggested he had military dominance. He did not. And the moment he gets called, he gets checked. Wow. What a read out, Beastie. Now the stealth as well to allow him to gap close quickly. Javs at this point just bully everything. The Men-at-Arms upgrade is going to take way too long to come through. I think his timings are going to be ruined here. The Prelate hasn't even gathered the Relic yet. He's not going to get a chance to. Ranches are being spammed up now, so we're going to see Marlians reaching for Castle Age in the next minute and a half. In the meantime, they get to harvest the organs of the Germans. Outpost coming up on the tree line from Gully. It's just not going to be quick enough, and this many jabs of Musafadi could do significant damage to a player who does not have deck styles. Musafadi torches out. E-repairs is going to be forced quite early here. In fact, he's trying to hold on to it last second. Gully completely forgot about it. That's a problem, actually. You don't have any outposts on the tree line? Okay, he notices just in time. This is really important, because I want to see Gully gathering on the stone and just getting a Springald here. He needs extra defenses right now. Now they'll chase him through. Prelates are at least pulling relics elsewhere, but this is looking a bit shaky. You can see that Beastie is finally ready to pull the trigger. He's going to be teching up and up by about 60 minutes. I think you probably put like 15 to 18 villages on this to get it quickly. An interesting point coming out from Crackety. He's highlighting that if Gully had just mass Spearman, he could have won this. I think I said that very early on. The idea of Spearman, I think the reason why he didn't want to do it is when you're against the Marlians, those Spearmen are better from a damage and stat perspective, right? You have movement speed, but they have better damage. They have a hybridized attack. But I did think he was going to lean into it. He started to, and then just shied away. The funny thing is actually in this game, I think BC had alternative opportunities. He could have went Sofas to beat this. Like, Sofas would have destroyed this comp as well. So there's a lot of reasons why Gully would have benefited from Spears. I agree on Crackety's assessment there. Like, actually, if you think about it, outside of the fact that Donzos are better, this Sith, like, never wants to build archers in Feudal Age. If they do it, you're winning, right? Even more so in this matchup, because you know you can scale more archers, and HREs are faster. And the reason you can scale more is because the Marlians get extra food, they get extra gold, they don't get extra wood. So, yeah, Crackety's not wrong. I mean, Crackety definitely is fanboy nature pretty hard right now. He can't hide that detail from me. But I got to give it to him. That detail is definitely an accurate one. Tech up now coming through. Beastie having to stand his ground as the dive comes in from Gully. Notice all the archers have been taken out of the equation. Musafadi numbers are shrinking fast, but the men-at-arms count isn't looking threatening right now. Now we reach a scary point because Gully is not going for spears. He's going Lancenet, he's going archers. I think this is just a double, triple stable drop and then a flood. For the time being, it's going to be Musafadi being upgraded. Relic count is looking like it's going to go up to 3 for Gully. In fact, it should be easily 4 considering this one. So, despite the weird pivot in that mid-game, credit to him, Gully is looking like he's going to get a 4 Relic Regnitz game. So you see what I was talking about how difficult it is to now, like, probe. This is the value of Javelins. There's any time it's not a committed fight, they feel dominant. They feel bullyish, actually. And the problem right now is because Gully's focusing on getting the relics and then probably eco-flaying, he doesn't want it all in. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Gully does that atypical thing we see where you just try to go Imperial. I'm praying he doesn't. I think actually going Imperial here would be a big mistake in a rush, considering your opponent's already been spamming Musafadi, and most Marlian players switch into Sofa. To go for your Imperial Age, you're just going to get ambushed midway. So much more logical to build an army and fight first. It's tough, don't get me wrong. You are up against the power spike of the Musafadi spam, right? Like, this is actually when Marlians feel strongest. But rushing your Imperial Age would just kill your game entirely. Scully's win condition. Is it going to be to just win in Castle? If the Mangonel detail pays off, sure. But one thing that scares me right now, this is such a blunder. I see it all the time, especially when you're not looking at, say, like the top 8 players. Gully's missing a critical ingredient to Siege working. Did you spot it? If you did, you actually might be a top 10 player on the ladder. He doesn't have a scout. That's a big no-no. You know your opponent's building Musafadi, you don't have any vision. So this first Mango could easily just die before it gets any value. I hate seeing this. It's really bad. And the problem is Gully's never had a reason to build a stables, so he's not going to change that, right? He doesn't want to build a scout out of the TC because that sacrifices a villager. That's never going to happen. Sacred Sites have at least been locked in by Gully. No outposts either, so there will be no vision. And we can already see that the Malians are out on the hunt. Looks like he has at least got an outpost on the gold, so that shouldn't really be raidable. Then again, I'd say this many Musafadi can easily burn down the outpost and kill whatever they find here. Interesting that Gully didn't take the 4th gold near his base. Typically, HRE players don't like playing flanks early on because it exposes them. Right? Usually it shows off their greed a bit easier. The only exception is when you're overwhelmed. When you can't take a direct fight, you'll try to sneak resources. But unfortunately, the sneak has not worked here. Musafadi are going to club down a few villies. Good micro as well. So Beastie just peels one off to chase down the injured villager. Rest hang around for the outpost. And that is going to be 5 extra villagers down the drain. While Gully has yet to make his move. Wait, did he already lose the mango? Or did he cancel it? I'm confused right now. There was a mango coming, right? I don't see any Musafadi having snuck in. No. There's no way he lost the Musafadi already. I imagine he cancelled it. Which feels terrible. Either way, actually, it feels tragic. You spend 300 resources on a building that you can't now use. Okay, thank you, Dragavan. Dragavan is on Mangonel watch duty for us. Yikes. Exactly as we expected then. So Musafadi were allowed to sneak in. Now it means he's got no threat against the Archer Javelins, which make up over half of the army for Beastie. Clash in his base means defender's advantage as well. And this is already looking like a failed effort. I just don't see how you break the base with this. Gully, I think you can't rush your opponent like this. This is the strongest point in a Malian game. The only way this would have potentially worked is with the Mangonels. Without that, it feels like a worthless attempt. Not just that, Musafadi are cutting reinforcements. So all of a sudden, this game is going to take a turn for the worse. The Austrian kid. Yeah, this is exactly the type of fight you could not take. This is so expensive as well. If you consider what both players are spending, you have to consider that even if the numbers of this came out similarly, Gully Deckle spent a lot more. He built crossbows compared to the javelins. That's the same cost, right? Then there's the archers, which are cheaper for Beastie. Then there are the Musafadi, which are cheaper for Beastie. And then you built Men-at-Arms and Lanceneck, which are both more expensive. That was an insanely unprofitable fight for Gully. The only reason his game isn't dead yet is because he's got 4 relics. But this type of fight is the type that can snowball quickly. You're at a stage in the game now where your initial resources are running out. You haven't walled the map, and the Musafadi have been consistently actively raiding. I think Gully needs to wall up fast. In fact, I think he has to take very safe walls around the initial tree lines. Because now you've lost map control, right? Like, you can't hold the flanks here at all. Why did Gully make crossbows? Because he thought he was going to be up against sofas. Which, to be honest, once again, even if you think you're up against sofas, build spears. It's crazy. Like, HRE in this matchup have to build spears. I would have taken all that extra resource that I would have spent on Men-at-Arms and used them on spears and more Lanceneck. And it would have done better. Right? That comp is a lot more threatening than Men-at-Arms running into soft-based targets, so no heavy mace damage increase, and into a unit that gets bonus damage against heavy. Right? Like, it feels like Gully just kind of got stuck in a rut. I think he looked at this in an atypical HRE way. To put it another way, he got the HRE brain, right? Me like Archer, me like Men-at-Arms, very fast. But against Malians, that doesn't usually work because of javelins and Musafadi. And indeed, you are correct, Dragavan. Imperial is now coming in. Imperial, which, by the way, is broken. There's no logical reason why Pasta Swabi should be cheaper. And I will argue that to the end of time. Nice raid coming in the meantime, though. A lot of villagers going down. Stealth just so powerful. What surprises me, actually, is that there's not that many outposts, if you think about it, in this game for Gully. He's finally setting them up on a delay, but he probably should have had a few more up here to stop these type of raids ever coming out. Oh my god, this army. Well, Gully has one hope of living, and it's not looking bright right now because he already upgraded most of his outposts. Cannonballs might be the one redeeming quality you have, but it's probably the only one. This army feels unbeatable. 121 bio. He's even got Screamers to counter the Mangoes. I don't care how many relics you've got. I don't care how many you garrison. They're going to be split way too wide to threaten that. Interesting choice to back up coming out. Gully Deckle now trying to scale into Lanceneck might be one way of you saving yourself here, but it's not going to be easy because the problem is if you're only building Lansk, you don't have anything to absorb damage from 55 archers. You just die. The weirder part to me is the fact that Beastie just backed up entirely. I think that was a misclick. There's no way. I think he was worried about the gold gathering, right? Yeah, you can see he's scouting them. So Beastie's thought process right here is, okay, he may have just got a tech up, but it's worthless if he can't access gold. And this is the correct read. I've said before that Aether is one of the civs that actually benefits from Imperial Age outside of gold, and that's because they can get loads of villages. But at the end of the day, in this matchup, your one hope is Siege and Lansk. That requires a lot of gold you're not going to have, and a Massacre coming in as Gully tries to build up the wall. It's not even going to work. It's going to cost him 8 villages as well. And the timing is perfect for an onslaught here. Beastie is going to wait for his tech up. You can say he's saved up what he needs for Imperial Age. But think about this, guys. For the Huntress coming in, center of the map, get that stealth and go. Easy GG. Instead, knowing the type of player Beastie is, he doesn't want to throw away his army diving into cannon placements. I wonder if he's just going to go for the free Sacred Lock-in. That is an interesting idea. I think that you're playing deeper into a game than you need to here, but I do kind of understand where Beastie's coming from. How many players have we watched dive cannon placements and lose control of the game because of it? It's insane how powerful relic cannons are. They're actually like not even remotely reasonable. 97 damage on a ranged attack with Splash is absurd. Especially considering that Beastie's army has below average health, right? Mustafadi 110, Javelin's 80, the Archers sitting at 80 as well. Like, these guys will just get decimated by cannon defenses. So I understand it. He's going to take his time instead and just wait for the full elite tech. Gully now trying to break out. He has gone for Inspired Warriors deck, which is intriguing. For Mangonels, it's not a bad idea. Actually, for Culverins, it's pretty sick as well. Remember, like, everyone thinks of Culverins as anti-siege, but I like to think of them as anti-anything, bar buildings, right? Like, if they see an infantry unit, for example, if they saw one of these archers right now, they'd one-hit them. If you get, not even chemistry, just get the Prelate buff, which is a cheap chemistry effect, then you can actually snipe pretty much any of the units which BC's running right now. Mustafadi raid is in again. Someone forgot to wall. Oops. What a funky TC as well. I didn't expect that, and I don't think that Gully will either. Beastie went for a second TC on the right flank. I think Beastie could just switch gunners now. You control the map, so you have 2 8k golds, right? Might not even need that, though. Look what he caught out of the base. Gully loses both for the siege. Oh, my God. He's only getting elite upgrades now due to the lack of gold. He's not going to have an army to upgrade. Wow, what a timing out of Beastie. Raid coming in on the gold. Right outside the front of Gully's base as well. And the damage is starting to add up here, folks. Lance, Men-at-Arms, Spears, Archers, all of them need to be upgraded for Gully. And that's going to require a substantial quantity of coin. I think this is kind of done. 2.6k gold might sound like a lot, but when you consider HRE and what they build and what they need, it doesn't go far. Yes, he's got 4 relics, that's 8 relics effective, but you're against Marlians, so that whole idea that you have gold advantage isn't necessarily true, right? With all the pit mines and the Mansa Quarry. Actually, at this stage, BC can compete with your numbers, especially now that he's got the Sacred Sites as well. And it's going to be a free raid. Oh my God, he never rewalled it! Well, it's not often you say a slab of wall decides it all, but I think either way, this was going one way. You know, looking back at this game, thinking about how this could have ended, if I had to choose one point to criticize, I think Crackety was on the money. Crackety said that the Spearman mass would have made more sense for Gully. I agree. We said going into this game, you need to win in the Feudal Age, and I stand by it. I think that was the time to go for Gully. Once it reached Castle and beyond, it started to favor Beastie more and more as the minutes went on. Your game? Yes, Gully. 1 second. Sorry, I'm just checking someone. Yeah. Me and Crackety were in agreement. Like, because the thing is, your opponent built Mustafadi and Javs. And it's like, if you build spears, he has to start building archers. And if he builds archers, you win. Because like, that is the area where Marlians suck. They do not want to build wood-based units. Because they get bonus food, they get bonus gold. They do not get bonus wood, right? Yeah. And it's faster. Like, that's the other thing. Your spearmen are faster than men-at-arms. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why it makes sense. Because like Mustafadi, the reason why he's fine with Mustafadi Javs is he has all this gold and all this food. That's the thing that will never run out for him. Okay, so let's see who we've got next that we can check in on. 1 sec, just need to send a message quick. Okay, there we go. Want to force him into Mustafadi, but should have stopped it. Yeah, like you done it. You like tick the box, but then I think I said you had HRE brain, which I think you'll agree was very accurate. HRE brain is Archer minute arms, Archer minute arms, Archer minute arms, right? That's the new HRE brain. You got a little bit too tunnel visioned. Gotta. I don't know if you do this, but something I always say to people if they want to improve their gameplay is like choose a certain threshold of time that passes in the game, where once it passes, you ask yourself, what are you doing? And if you can't give yourself an honest answer, a good answer, then you're not like you're doing something suboptimal, right? Does that make sense? That might help in those situations because you'll check yourself and go, why am I doing this thing? You have to be, you know, it's appropriate because you're a 16-year-old kid. You have to be the inquisitive little kid that always goes, why, right? Like just keep asking why. What's up, Grim? Please coach me, you legend. Would people really want to see coaching? So I'm gonna give a little teaser into the whole campaign we're gonna do to raise money. I did put a goal in there. Let me know what you guys think of this, by the way. Have a look at the milestones. Have a look at all those details and the rewards. Let me know if there's ideas for like donating that intrigue you. Have I priced these too high? Should I put the milestones lower? So on and so forth. Because I want to get your opinions. Exclamation mark Discord. Add them in there. Because I think I put as a 2K mark. Sorry, 1.2K goal. I said we'd live coach a bronze, somewhere between a bronze and gold player. So we would literally hop in a call with them, they'd share screen, and then we'd walk them through the game as they play it. Either like we could do that live as they're playing the game, or we could like review their stuff afterwards. The live while they're playing the game seems quite funny though. My AoE IQ is insane? I don't know if it's that crazy. What about a diamond player? I mean, a diamond player should know better. Maybe a diamond player I need to offer up coaching. Do I need to... So I actually... Okay, so self-shill moment, because I actually do have that in the Patreon right now, is if I have a look here. I want people's help with this as well, because I don't know... Like, I've said to you guys before, because some people asked about Patreon, what would you want to see? What would get you, like, invested? Because at the moment, like, these are just pretty much give me monies. But I did at least put this in on the $50, because I was thinking, like, I don't know if people want that content, need to make it worthwhile, whatever. But, like, letting you submit replays for coaching. And then maybe, I don't know, one-on-one coachings, these type of things. Like, I'm trying to think. So, the reason I want you guys to let me know is because if you guys, like, are the ones buying into these Patreons or the coffee I think is going to mainly be, like, prize pool money. We'll figure that out. But the Patreon or whatever, well, like, I want to know what would get you guys to open your wallets. Right? Like, what would you like to see? And be reasonable about it. Like, for the time investment and whatever, it's like, okay, what, you know, thinking about, like, the branching options KP, what would be a reasonable amount for me to get this thing that I'm asking for? Let me know, though. Exclamation mark Discord. Join there. Drop your comments. I think I've got, like, I think I have a channel suggestions or whatever, or I can make a specific one for these. But I want to give you guys value, right? I want to make sure you guys get something out of it that you want. And it's starting to sound like some people want coaching, which I still can't believe anyone would want to be coached by me. But who am I to say no? You know, you guys want to give me money, I'll take money. I guess in a way, like, I'm a viable coach in that, like I said before, I probably watch Well, no, not improperly. I definitely watch more Age of Empires 4 than anyone. Like, full stop. I think that's fair. Let's have a quick look and see if there's anyone live. Charlie Conway. Are you hitting me with the American metaphors, Hermes? I always know this. Like, I've always noticed this with Americans. Because we used to have this in Dota 2. There was a guy called Kyle who would always make basketball and American football references on broadcasts with majority European talent. And no one understood what he was talking about. It was so good. Mighty Ducks is universal. I don't think I've ever watched Mighty Ducks, actually. If I'm being totally real. Is that bad? Was Mighty Ducks really that popular? Oh, sorry, I didn't know about it. Ah, you're Australian. Got you, Hermes. Got you. Like, I've never seen it. Is it good? Does it hold up? It's an American classic. Does it hold up? Like, if we put it next to... What was it called? Was it Mr. Deeds or whatever? The Adam Sandler one? As an example of, like, damn, that's a good film. It's so terrible, it's amazing. Oh, damn. Okay, that's where we're going. I do love those occasionally. Like, one of my favorite for that is, has anyone seen Shoot 'em Up? Shoot 'em Up is so bad. It's incredible. It should... Honestly, Shoot 'em Up should be an all-time great. So was Starship Troopers. Oh, dude, Starship Troopers was brilliant for so many other layers than it's so terrible, it's amazing. Like, the amount of people that didn't understand that it wasn't propaganda for, like, a dictatorship world, but it was actually meme, like it was mocking the idea. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. I love Starship Troopers to this day. Scarface, another bad, amazing. Yeah, like, okay, I watched Scarface years later fully, and I gotta say, like, it baffles me. It has iconic scenes like, say hello to my little friend, right? But, like, for the most, it is a really bad movie with terrible pacing. I genuinely think, like, to most people, I would advise watching the iconic moments from Scarface over watching the entire movie, because a lot of it is just dry and empty. Deblina says, we would love to see you playing sometime. Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, so I've talked about this before. Like, one, my PC is just too sucky to play. Two, so like on that front, if you guys do know someone that works at a PC company, I am actively seeking sponsors. I want to get sponsors involved so I can make this my full-time job. Two is, I think I said that, you know, if the stream starts to grow more, if we get to like somewhere between 250, 300 average viewers across a month or two, then I'll be like, you know what, we're going to do a Road to Conk build. We're going to do a Road to Conk challenge or whatever. And I'll do it finally. Have you considered asking Corsair? I mean, I need to contact Corsair. Like, so here's the interesting thing, Crackety. Like, there is a UK guy for Corsair stuff. I've even sent him DMs, but I've never had a response. And something I've noticed, like, I need to go to more physical events. So, like, I, unfortunately, due to other commitments, couldn't go to something called Insomnia, which is a big gaming event in the UK. But I need to get to these physical events to be in person with them, because the reality is, like, when you email someone, it's less impactful than when you're there in person. Like, a little tip to anyone trying to be a full-time content creator, one of the best tips I can give you. Meeting people in person and just actually learning to have a drink with people and talk about stuff with them, you could have a tenth of the CCV of someone else and have more chance of getting a sponsor from them because of that. Like, it baffles me how many people don't get this. Networking is basically learning how to hold your liquor and not be a dick once you're drunk. No cap. It's insane. Like I think someone that's always helped me on the networking front in like the esports area is like, I just have fun drinking, right? I'm just me. Like, I treat everyone as they be, regardless of what their role is, their job or whatever. And like, part of that that's always helped me is like, I know that I can get drunk and it doesn't like, you know how somebody like the dark secret comes out. So the skeleton's under my basement. Like, I can just basically drink and I'm very comfortable with the person I am, because like how I would act when I'm drunk versus how I'm sober, I feel like quite comparative. So it's like, it's nice because I think the reality is like when you're drinking with people, they get a little bit looser as well, and you just get to know each other. And then also the cool thing is, like, I think in general most people feel that when they're out having a pint away with someone, once you're a few drinks in, you see the real person, if that makes sense. I'm not saying you need to be, like, if you don't like drinking, you're never going to have a chance talking to people. But I mean, like, it is an interesting perception, is that when you lose control of your inhibitions, how you act in a lot of people's eyes, I feel, is a more genuine representation of how you would be. Versus, like, if you are completely sober and ready for a business meeting, you're not going to reveal any weakness or something like that, right? Use LinkedIn and spam people until they respond. That's true. That is one way. Has that been working out, Crackety? The challenge there is to have something to offer. That's why I've been aiming to do a bunch of different things behind the scenes, so I have a lot to offer. Sorry, I was meant to be searching for a game, searching for a game to cast still. Let's quickly check live one more time. If not, we've got replays we can hop into. Being passionate about what you do? I mean, sure, that's like, to me, that's a given in general, right? So I think a big reason why, even when I start taking on sponsors, maybe I'm delusional of this, but I like to believe that a lot of people would still support me and believe in what I'm doing, is the reality that I was I was a software dev before this. I've done esports commentary, like all these sort of things, right? I could be putting all of this time into those things, but instead I do this because I love doing this, right? So it's like any sponsors or whatever that I bring on board, I would want them to align with my goals and what I envision for this community, right? So that genuineness goes a long way, and I think most people can see the genuineness for the fakeness. So I'm not seeing any notable names other than Dudu live in games right now. Is that actually Kapoch? No freaking way, man. It might be. Dude, that's Kapoch. What's he doing back on AoE4? I haven't seen him on it in a long time. Bloody hell. All right, let's go replays. Crackety, did you have a game you'd recommend? Louis MT fan, maybe? Your Abbasid versus HRE game? Oh, we've got Ibids versus HRE or Abbasids. I feel like we don't see HRE versus Abbasids much, so maybe we go for that one. You have a decent amount of my games now. What would you say fits my playstyle the best? I don't feel like I've seen your playstyle clearly. It's how to describe it. In the politest way, I think you have this middle ground between almost an indecisive middle ground between being more of a defensive boomy player and being an attacky player. And I think it's kind of deceptive to tell the truth of it because you play a lot of HRE and they can just be attacky very easily, right? I would say try leaning more into the aggro playstyle because in general right now, if you want to succeed as a player, the meta is very heavily focused around feudal and early castle. That's usually where you'll see people win the games or lose the games. So like I would say lean into that timing, learn how to optimize your feudal and early castle play, and you'll go much further as a player right now. Now, that might set you up for failure later down the line if the meta shifts back to Imperial Age, but if it does, I'd recommend just moving on to another game. I'm not going to hide my hate for like Imperial Plus play. Imperial Plus play is usually not very good in AoE4 still. I'm still kind of hoping that they in some ways rework elements of it. All right, let's do the HRE versus Abbasids game of Crackety's. But yeah, how do you feel about your Delhi as well? Like, you're trying to be a competitive player. If your Delhi is not up to scratch, then that's going to be one of your biggest weak points. Byzantines is probably going to get nerfed. I think Abbasids is low-key underrated to learn to use properly. And English is kind of a must right now. My Delhi, you think it's fine? I don't think I've watched many of your Delhi games. I think there was one, maybe. Like, basically, if we had to choose a roster as a aspiring pro player, like a roster to focus on to up your game, you want to prioritize Delhi, Ibid. Rus is just not going to get through. Ibid sometimes will. Byzantines, HRE. And then I'd actually say knowing how to gen could be good. Micro isn't too good, but Decision is good. Hold on a sec. Didn't we just watch you not build spears in that Marlin game? I mean, Micro in some ways is somewhat easy to practice. I think there's still a few mods like the Micro Wars that can let you do that. What about a non-pro player? Oh, non-pro players, well, that depends on your rank, right? And what are you looking to do? You're looking to improve as a player or looking to just get cheap, easy wins? Because if you want meaningful coaching, you want to do more than just learn a trick. Any Civ recommendations outside of English and French? HRE is fairly flexible and easy to execute right now. Japan, you could genuinely get to Conqueror just learning the Castle Age Japan build. They can end the games really fast. I think one nice thing about playing Japan is Japan, in a way, will allow you to focus more on map movements in the mid-game because you're kind of on autopilot mode with your economy because Kura Storehouse makes transitions easy, right? So if you want to focus on how you navigate the map and timings, Japan's a really good set for that. If you want to learn how to be really macro and eco-efficient, something like Abbasid can be really cool because they have that leniency with the extra savings to do other things, but you learn how to scale quite well. I think H3 is good for improving decision-making. You can do a lot of transitions.
Now you're my
sort of. Yo, what's up, MSN? Thank you for the raid, my friend. I think HRE is sort of good for decision-making, but you could argue Japan fits that as well because the aggressive transitions in Castle Age, right, with Euroshiro, has a similar effect. Zhone is really good for like practicing your micro for sure. Actually, like Zhone's another perfect example of timing because I think Zhone in a lot of ways, because of the optimization of ball pulls and where you want to be on the map, it's kind of like when you watch a StarCraft game. It's like you need to come here at this point to do this pull, right, to get a proxy base. All right, we should hop in this game though. We're ready to go. I'm trying to think like what other civs off the top of my head would have fit what I was talking about there. I wouldn't recommend Ottomans to people right now. Delhi, if you want to learn actually how to like improve to a pro level your first 20 minutes of play, Delhi is so freaking good for that because like there are so many known build orders and ways to execute. The only thing I'd say is what that will teach you is how to execute a build. It won't teach you how to react with a build. But like if you want to learn how to perfect the first 20 minutes with a certain civ, there is no cleaner example than Delhi because the Delhi build has been optimized so much now that compared to every other civ that keeps changing, the Delhi is like the most purest, longest form running, does the same thing all the time. Roos is probably the best teacher at using map resources. I actually don't rate Roos highly for improving gameplay because the issue with Roos is Roos basically, it's too handholdy. It's very much you're on crutches. Because yes, you have to micro. So like the only thing Roos teaches you is good micro, right? For deer hunting. But what it does really bad for you is it makes you complacent because Roos have so many scouts that once you figure out the basics of just moving the scouts towards the enemy base, you get way too used to being in a game where you see everything. And most civs don't see everything, right? So actually I think Roos sets you up for bad fundamentals because you don't learn how to scout. Because you've been given all the vision, right? It's like the difference between playing with a scout and just playing with map vision on. That's how it feels. It feels almost impossible, unless you're being ignorant, to not know what your opponent is doing when you play Roos. In some ways, that can be good, right? I think if you're actually trying to learn like what the standard plays are from a civ, that makes Roos good there, right? Because then you know what they're doing, you understand their timings. But if you're beyond that point and you're trying to learn optimal rotations on how to know what people are doing, Roos is a terrible civ. Because it sets you up for bad habits, right? Like, you're at a stage now where the best way to describe it is you don't need the stabilizer wheels anymore. You're ready to start biking on 2, but you're still too lazy to take the stabilizers off. That's how I view Roos for an improving player. HRE are way too powerful. The OP, they need to be nerfed. That's what Crackety sounds like at the moment. So we had to check in on some Crackety HRE gameplay. Clearly, this man made this comment and then immediately said, I've got to make it to #1 on the ladders. So it shouldn't be too hard to beat this guy, right? Louis MT fan, a.k.a. Cat at the 3D clan. Not even the #1 ranked person in the 3D clan. And Crackety's got the OP civ. The Abbasids have been buffed recently. They are performing a little bit better these days. But I think most players would agree that HRE is still much a favored civ. And I get where Crackety's coming from, by the way. Like, I may have teased him a bit there, but I am with him in that the HRE feels very powerful right now. Their marching drills has given them an insane degree of agency in the feudal age that they never had before. I do expect this to get nerfed, by the way. I 100% expect that the Holy Roman Empire is going to need to build blacksmiths to get their hands on marching drills in the future. And I wouldn't even be surprised if down the line we end up nerfing Palace of Swabia to not get an absurd, unnecessary discount on its cost. But that being said, I definitely would say there are other civs ahead of the HRE that probably need a nerf more, aka the likes of the Byzantines, the Chinese, and probably the Rus still. I think the Rus actually need a rework entirely. In this matchup, it's kind of interesting actually because the HRE are going to have to play a little bit of feudal presence to block out what the Abbasids are going to do. I actually think Abbasids are absolutely fine. You know, we saw them get a buff recently because they were just being ignored entirely. The moment that buff came out, all of a sudden their win rate in competitive was out of control. And it's still to this day because of this landmark choice. Never underestimate the power of 3 units. Well, 4 units. You see what I done there? That was a terrible joke. 4 free units at the start of an A drop that tick 2 of the 3 overarching corners of the triangle of AoE4 balance, right? Which is ranged, cav, infantry. You get 2 of those. And those 2 can only be counted one way, which is archers. Now, that's not a bad side for the HRE, but it does mean that they're going to have to be present in the feudal. So I'm wondering actually how Cat is going to adjust for this, knowing that this isn't just going to be a greedy fast castle build. I imagine we're still going to be looking at a 2TC approach for the Abbasids. It's way too desirable to not do. The interesting part to me is he's already gathering the wood, but he hasn't moved down to the stone yet at all. I feel like this is not going to be any sort of production building added in, and we have a confirmation here. It's going to be a fast 2TC, and oh my god, the spawn gods love you today, don't they? Deer Berry Pack right next to the goal. This is perfect, actually. Cat's got a great spawn. Rus needs the Kremlin reworked. As the Rus main, I would be fine with it. I don't think it's even just the Kremlin rework. I just genuinely think Rus need to have the hunting changed. Like, the hunting minigame is just dumb. This is coming from someone who used to like it and do it a lot. It's dated and it's bad and it actually cripples map designers. The deer and wolves detail makes it so hard. The only issue is I think you have to find a new relevancy point for wolves, because if you nerf the Rus, the wolves basically don't have any role that matters. But they barely have a role anyway. Like, I think that just fundamentally needs to be changed. Now, speaking of things that I know Crackly wants changed here, it's not just the Imperial Age landmark that he finds disgusting. It's the 40% gathering speed buff. And I've got to say, I understand where he's coming from on this. Mainly because of the wood. 40% gathering speed buff on food, on gold, I don't think is too crazy. The 40% gathering speed on the wood is where this gets insane, because when you put a number on the amount of resources you get here, I don't know if anyone has such a no-life situation, no touchy grass, that they've counted every tree here. If I had to guesstimate, we get 150 wood per tree. There's going to be, what? Well over 10,000 wood here. So, actually, maybe not 10,000. Let's say like 8,000, 9,000. And you could basically guarantee you're going to have a buff 40% gathering rate on over half of that. That's what's making the HRE seem insane, because the flexibility. They can set up farms easily to do something other than archers, or they can get their hands on an unfathomable number of archers early on. Now, in this game, Crackety actually has delayed moving into that choice. Archer range is finally coming in. But you already see the impact this is having, where Louis MT Fan, aka Cat, is just able to block any sort of TC play or any sort of fast castle play. Because even if Crackety wanted to rush up outpost, that's very expensive at this stage. Especially when you know your opponent is going to be rushing for a TC. The way I like to look at this military wing, actually, it's quite interesting when you draw the parallels. Think of the Abbey of Kings build for the English right now. How is it fundamentally different? It's different when you add the strategy and the tactics in that, for example, the king is faster, the king can dive, and the king can heal. But what the king does initially is exactly the same as the Abbasid military wing. It forces an uncomfortable reaction to the play. If Crackety wanted to fast castle, he can't anymore. If Crackety had wanted to go horseman as an opener, he can't anymore. If Crackety wanted to go 2TC, he can't anymore. He has to address the threat first. That's what makes this wing, by far and truly, the most powerful choice for the Abbasids in Feudal Age. With it, TC is now already on the way. Meanwhile, Crackety is now stuck building into archers because he has to first. If he builds into a men-at-arms, he's just going to get kited and stabbed down. It's more expensive. Archers are definitely the most efficient way. But that means that now you don't have an efficient way of attacking this TC. Not quickly, anyway. So the Abbasid player is always going to get value. And the cool thing now is with this change, with fresh foodstuffs being on the mill, you don't even sacrifice a villager in getting this online. you now are saving 18 food per villager, which means per minute in this game, he's going to be saving 108 food. That's enough to start adding in a horseman minute. Or 3 more archers. That's an interesting detail, right? When you consider the 40% buff we talked about on the other side, it's not going to mirror it. But between that and the Golden Age, which typically comes online around 8.5 minutes, all of a sudden it makes sense why the Abbasids can compete a lot better than other civs would at this stage of the game. Raid coming in. A little bit short on the time in there. Louis MT not quick to move away, so we'll lose a villager for his troubles. And yeah, I think I could see that maybe being an interesting approach. 30% Dark and Feudal Age and then 40% Castle. The only issue with changing the eco buff of the Archon to be like that I don't like, is I actually think it would change the builds entirely. People would just, like, they stop doing Feudal again, they go Castle, because Castle would be optimal. I feel like maybe the better way would be some sort of limitation on how many people Archon can buff. Right? So, like, maybe that scales with age, where it buffs, I don't know, 15 people in Feudal. And then 25 in Castle, and then 35 in Imperial. That might be a cooler way of thinking of it. Maybe that's too complicated, though. Like, you're always going to find developers trying to avoid complications, because anytime you complicate a mechanic, players switch off and don't understand it. And Louis MT fan is definitely Cat. I've seen the profile picture before. So Louis MT fan is 46th in the world right now. Krakeny is sitting in 36th. But I have definitely seen that exact profile picture before. They're from Russia. This is definitely Cat. Now, what's interesting about this matchup is while one side has the mobility on their archers, the other has a different advantage you can scale into. I'm wondering if Cat's going to lean into it this game. Boot Camp is kind of insane when you get in these trades. I think it's going to be very important to his defense, but for now, he just needs to get the raw quantity together to see any value out of it. That was the TC. Probably worth garrisoning now. The extra arrow fire would just completely reset this. And yep, here we go. Gets him inside. All of a sudden, I love this. Just targets the archers with his own, ignores the men-at-arms, and lets the TC deal with that instead. And that's going to be a rush out into the goal. So we're probably going to be looking at a quick shuffle into, I'd say, the Ecotech, because he's gathering on the berries. And that should unlock a lot of potential, because right now that's where he's lacking. You can see Krakeny is getting value out of the fact he's already got his Ecotechs,